All systems nominal.
それでは早速全速前進
You know what the weak point of a mech is? The fucking pilot.
Get away from her, you bitch!
His papers say he was a raven.
Protocol 3.
A pattern blue!
Welcome to On the Shoulders of Giants, a giant robot power hour discussing mechs across media, their stories, and why we love them. I'm Niko, and I'm joined by Alice.
Today is my day. I'm going online. I'm going to Zero City to post about how Togasa is a bigot.
Brian?
I see the headline, a young mecha freak with feelings for some dated android blackmails a robot manufacturer, and I immediately call Niko's mother.
Wow. No. And our beautiful guest, Iris J.
No more bullets? Hey, laughing boy, no more bullets!
This time around, we're discussing the part of Ghost in the Shell that actually has Tachikomas in it. Finally, Jesus Christ. Standalone Complex, Season 1, Part 1. Let's launch into it.
Play that area chorus. Oh yeah, I'm jamming.
Oh, so...
Niko, we got Tachikomas finally. How you feeling?
We finally fucking got touch. After years of calling every mech in Ghost in the Shell a Tachikoma, I'm finally correct.
Years
of doing this.
Niko saw a think tank and question mark, is that a Tachikoma?
Is this a Tachikoma?
Holding Togasa in my hand, is this a Tachikoma?
Holding Togasa's mullet in my hand. We're finally getting to the part of the year in the shell that everyone has been hyped for me to experience. We are at Standalone Complex. And so for this episode, we've invited on Standalone Complex superfan, artist, comic writer, and artist, illustrator, Iris J.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
So, welcome.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Are we not cheering?
I'm a really big fan of your show, and you have helped me get through many a laborious inking session, so I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're braver than the troops. I just don't ink.
Me playing Splatoon 2. What a laborious inking session.
I fucking hate you. I'm going to kick you off the show one day. Anyway. Iris, this is your tryout to replace Alice, our CEO.
Wait, is this at the end of this, there will only be 3 hosts and I have to fight for my place?
We keep threatening this every time we have a guest on.
This is actually your performance review.
Now we all have to fight.
Only person who could replace me, Iris J. Hello?
No, I'm your one-size-fits-all favorite friend. You can fit me in and out of the podcast as much as you like.
Including in the CEO's chair. So, Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, I had a journey on the Wikipedia page for this show. Let me tell you. I was opening links, I was clicking links, I was opening sublinks.
Okay.
There's a lot behind the production of this show.
This was a huge project, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it was as huge of a project as it was, if I'm being honest. I mean, we all saw Innocence.
Yeah, it's funny because this show was kind of getting cooked around the same time as Innocence, it seems like, and it came out slightly before Innocence hit theaters.
Which is wild because it's capturing so much of both of them, but I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll get into it.
Makes the cars even more inexplicable. Anyway.
Yeah.
We got to talk about those trucks. We got to talk about the Tachikoma trucks. That's it. That's all I'll say.
All right. So Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex was animated in 2002 by Production IG, which you might know from producing Pat Labor 2.
Yeah.
Previous topic of the show. Gargantia on the Virtuous Planet, which I always struggle to say, but we literally just mentioned as an inspiration for Titanfall 2.
I cannot wait
Fully
for us to cover it.
FLCL, so Fully Coolly, an icon that we may, try to justify as being a mech media at some point just to cover.
I thought Fully Coolly was Gynax.
It's both, right? So they had a special production committee which consisted of both Gynax and Production IG. So.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. But Production IG was just in all sorts of wild shit. One that made me laugh. It made sense, but it made me laugh. They contributed storyboards to Neo Yokio.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. You can't have my big Toblerone. So
My favorite thing of theirs is they also did, this isn't mech at all, but they did Shirobako, the anime about making anime.
It's so good.
Oh, cool.
That's why they have a giant car chase at the start of the series, so they can show off that they can do sick-ass car chases in a series that will not get any more sick-ass car chases.
You gotta have one in every series. I'm constantly complaining about those.
I'd like
A
to shout out
sick-ass-
a production IG production, which also has the same head writer as Standalone Complex, which is a show called Eden of the East, which people should watch because it's really fucking good.
Agreed.
I love terrorism. Terrorism is great.
So there's two more things I want to mention because they were wild to me. First of all, one of my favorite manga of all time and an anime that I had to warm up to just because seeing Clamp stuff animated sometimes is hit or miss. But
Yeah.
Holic. They
Holic.
also did Holic, which is just one of my all-time favorite things in the world. But they also did the animated sequences in Kill Bill Volume 1. Only after being dogged by Quentin Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino apparently approached Production IG and was like, I'd really like you to help me with this. Other people who approached Production IG for consultation, the Wachowski sisters for The Matrix. Okay, whatever. They were just crushing it in the 2000s. But anyway, Quentin Tarantino approaches them and the heads of Production IG are like, it sounds cool, but like, I don't know, we got a lot on our plate. So he just started unsolicited sending them like every version of the script for Kill Bill Volume 1 as it was coming out until eventually he wore them down like a guy negging you. And then they did that.
Well, we got that animated sequence is like top fucking notch incredible. So maybe it was worth it. Maybe the harassment was worth it.
I don't think the harassment is ever worth it, especially when it comes to Quentin fucking Tarantino.
You know what?
No.
I think that's really what tips it over. I think if it was someone more innocuous, then that might be a little bit more excusable. But yeah, that man is not. You can't. You absolutely do not have to hand it to Quentin Tarantino.
All my friends with foot fetishes are embarrassed to be associated with him.
You know what? That's so real. The foot fetish community does
They deserve
not
better. A
accept
foot's a
him.
normal part of the body. I'm sorry you have to get associated with a shitty director.
Okay, Niko, what else is going on with this with Sack?
We gotta talk about feet.
No. Something else notable about Production IG, which is really cool, is they do vigorously pursue international partnerships. That pursuit is why Innocence. It's wild to me that Innocence is the one that went to the Cannes Film Festival and not like Ghost in the Shell 1, but Innocence was the first Japanese animated film ever shown at the Cannes Film Festival. Like, they made that happen.
That's cool.
Yeah, they also work super closely with Netflix and Adult Swim on various projects, kind of embracing the fact that like that's where people are like getting anime and like
It was very early 2000s a way of getting out there. They were good at getting into the overseas markets very much.
So Standalone Complex is written and directed by Kenji Kamiyama, who started his career as a background artist. He did some like background art for like Ghibli stuff, Kiki's Delivery Service. He did background art for that. And then he ended up authoring his first script for Production IG and then directing 2 smaller projects. And then SAC became like his full-time job for 6 years. Like that just like took over his life. But I thought it was really interesting that like animation does, or at least at that time period, seemed to be an industry where you would get your foot in the door with one job that you had talent in, and then you kind of had some freedom and mobility to try your hand at other stuff. For Production IG is where he got into directing and he got into writing.
A lot of production industries used to behave that way, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't know that we get it anymore, but shout outs.
Which I think sucks, but
Kamiyama, to this day, in my opinion, did the best Ghost in the Shell adaptation writing to date, in my opinion. So
yeah,
shout outs.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And we'll touch on it more, but I liked his like Alice is just sitting here like, I love Arise, frankly.
2045 is so good, guys.
I think he had a really good approach. He described Standalone Complex as being a relative to the manga and movies. So it's kind of parallel, but it's not in the same universes. So you don't have to have watched or read like anything previously to just jump into Standalone Complex. You will get what you need to know. But it is also interesting, I will say, like, the method paying off for The Year in the Shell. Like, previously to this, I had only ever seen the 1995 movie. And now having seen that movie, it's funny to know that Innocence was being developed around the same time. So I've seen that. And having read the manga now and seen where that goes, I can clearly see where things are like chopped and screwed and like fused together in an interesting way. I can kind of see the DNA.
Or like when they choose to play with something and use it to kind of extend other possibility spaces.
Yeah.
Or take a half-cooked idea that Oshi made and had no one else in the room to tell him, hey, pump the brakes. And we can do that better. We can take that idea and do it better in this series.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. It's definitely interesting for sure. Another notable thing for the production, Yoko Kanno is so back. We are back. On the soundtrack, she's crushing it. It's really funny because I think I've gotten used to like a modern era of like unobtrusive soundtracks. And this soundtrack, it isn't obtrusive, but like I'm noticing it in a way that is like really nice compared to a lot of modern productions I've watched where it's like, well, I'm glad there isn't silence, but I couldn't tell you anything about the soundtrack. Whereas I feel like I could put on the sax soundtrack and like jam, you know, and I would remember specific sequences.
It's like how in modern prestige television, you have a lot of like needle drops for like popular songs that are supposed to make you feel a way. But in SAC, all of the needle drops are for songs that exist in this universe and not ours. It's so cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's really good. I really like that. But we do now have to talk about the openings and the endings, which are wild. So,
That's
Iris,
some
you
CGI.
added... Oh, we can talk about the animation in a second. I'm still talking about the music.
Oh, yeah.
Iris, you added a really interesting note because I hadn't grabbed that they were composed by Yoko Kanno, though they weren't performed by her.
Yeah. She likes to use guest vocalists in her work. And this is a case where she got two different vocalists to do the two openings. Just for listeners who are not aware, because I wasn't either. When the shows were originally shown on like when they premiered, they had one set of openings and closing, and when they went into syndication, they had a different set of opening and closings. For the original openers, the Inner Universe and Get 9, they're both composed by Yoko Kanno, but the vocal tracks on them are different artists. Origa and Jill Max, respectively. The endings are, as far as I can tell, by different people, though. Lithium Flower is by an artist named Scott Matthew, and he has it on his YouTube page as like his. Similarly, I Do is on Ilaria Graziano's personal YouTube page. So,
And I think we got to say it, just get it out of the way. Two things. So I got roasted before recording because I did not watch the opening or ending until about like episode 8.
People are screaming. People love these openings and endings. Like these are famous in anime, and it was very funny that I had been gushing about them, and then like 2 days later, Niko's like, "Yeah, I had been completely ignoring all of this, but yeah."
I love to approach things incorrectly. It's my hobby.
So you watched Standalone Complex at 2 times speed to get through it in time, right?
No, I will say, thankfully, I did actually watch this like in a reasonable
Without
time span at normal speed. Yeah, without multitasking, because I watched it in Japanese and that's a lie. I watched it in Japanese with subtitles and I folded origami cranes at the same time. Are you fucking happy that I sound like a weeb like you?
Did you get to 1,000 of them?
That's thematically appropriate for
to
later.
Make your wish?
No.
It is. It really is.
I'm folding cranes in jars of 200 so that I'll have 5 jars at the end. But I'm only around like 500, I'm sorry to say.
Oh.
Anyway.
Best of luck.
No, I do want to say, so I hadn't watched them because I saw the CGI in the opening and I was like, Code Lyoko looking ass, I'm good. And then,
No way.
And then I heard the English start up in the closing and I had war flashbacks to Life is Like a Boat, the first Bleach closing theme. And I went, I'm good actually. And I skipped it. And then Brian kept saying bizarre non sequiturs. Like, what would she be like if she didn't surf? And I was like, what does that mean? Like, at first, I was baffled. Anyway, I finally fucking
Listeners know
them.
that she's incredible math. Okay, listeners know this.
He is.
I I finally fucking watched them, and the first thing I did after I watched them is my very brave spouse had come in to sit down and just kind of idly watch it with me. And we got to the ending, and I said, hey, you want to see the best anime ending of all time? And I immediately made them watch it.
Yeah.
Which is like
It's
how
so
you know
good.
a prank is good.
Why are you like this?
Because I was built different. Better with the Bucky shirt and the overalls. So, Standalone Complex, as mentioned, is part of the broader Ghost in the Shell franchise, but it's doing its own thing. As I mentioned, we can say with some authority at this point, it's drawing on aspects of the major, the setting, and Section 9 from the film and the manga. It has 2 seasons, but for this episode, we'll just be discussing the first 13 episodes of Season 1.
It's very dense. Even if we were to just talk about the mecha portions of this, we would have to break this up because it's so heavy.
Yeah, I don't know if you
There's a
guys
lot going on here.
noticed this, but each episode either every episode has a preface. So they're either SA episodes, which means that they are standalone episodes, which means that they are just like independent cases that Section 9 is handling. And then they have complex episodes, which deal with the main plot, which in this season is the Laughing Man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how I've kind of divided up our discussion for later.
Yeah.
Is by like essay episodes and complex episodes. I like the theming. I like when there's a structural theming. I must be said.
Me too. Yeah.
But I'm gonna ask, what did y'all know about this media before we chose to cover it? Which is the funniest possible question I could ask. But Alice, what did you know?
Thanks for asking. I watched this like many people of my specific age group on Toonami at night. Every night, because they would play 2 episodes every fucking night, and I would watch it every night because that was how you had to consume anime at the time. And I've watched the series probably 20, 30 times. I could not tell you how many times. Like, I put this on, and it was just like visiting an old friend. I knew every beat, I knew everything that was happening, and it was just so calm coming back to this. Standalone Complex is so core to my identity as a trans person that I'm so glad we're covering it because it is so gender, it is so identity, it is so mecha. But yeah, I got deep into it. I'm dirty about her.
Free HRT for the listeners. Just watch Standalone Complex.
Yeah.
And it can be free. You don't have to pay.
Consider if you want to be in a female or male chassis, and you know these are things that you have to ask
Or
yourself.
a tank.
Or a think tank.
Or a little box.
Or a Jameson,
Yeah.
please. Yes.
Or a little
Thank you.
box. Yes.
Why does he have a fan? He ain't getting hot.
He's a salesman. Brian, what did you know? What was your life experience like?
Basically same as Alice, except I'm cis, I guess. I don't know. Like that's like the only difference in our experience.
Like cis-ish.
Yeah.
The ish is the Standalone Complex.
The only thing Standalone Complex didn't give me is like specific gender thoughts, but it has been like a part of my life forever. The last time I watched it was a long time ago. I watched it in college, and I did a paper on the first season, and I'm really mad because I can't find that paper, and it was a really fucking good paper.
I'm sorry.
But
Lost
yeah,
Media, Brian's paper on Standalone Complex.
my paper on Standalone Complex, and I think it had to do with, it was a media criticism class, so I think it had to do with like the whole like newscaster censorship motif that we're starting to get in these episodes. But yeah, I mean, just like Metal Gear, right? Like it's just part of everything to me. So to be able to watch it and take notes, and I was like giggling, putting like my little Blu-ray in. I was like so excited to come back to it.
All right, and Iris.
I mean, my answer is pretty much going to be a carbon copy of Alice's as well. So let me just actually show you something here. One moment.
Oh, hell yeah. Now that is fucking sick.
For those
Oh my God.
listeners, because this isn't a visual medium, Iris just showed us ports on the back of their neck.
Yeah. So I watched GitS Sack when I was in my teens, and it changed the shape of my brain, and I'm trans and bi now. So
Real.
howdy, folks.
Again, it's for free. You could just make this change.
Yeah, it's great.
You could just watch Sack.
What about cyberpunk for you, Iris?
Oh,
How does
yeah,
that-
no, that's relevant
Talk
too.
about the cyberpunk of it all.
So I've for about a little over 10 years now, on and off, I've been drawing a webcomic called Crossed Wires. That is an exploration of I think the pitch I give is the HE intersection between queer identity, community, and technology in our modern age. It's about a gang of queer hackers who uncover a corporate conspiracy. And it was born out of a love of cyberpunk media. Specifically, it started its life as a fan comic for the 1995 film Hackers, starring Johnny Lee Miller and Angelina Jolie.
Yes!
Greatest film ever fucking made.
Yes, it is. Oh my God.
So, and it kind of grew into this sort of lifelong interest in our portrayals of a future 20 minutes from now made 20 minutes into the past, because it's kind of like viewing our current world through an imperfect lens. It's interesting to see what they got right. It's interesting to see what they continue to get right all the time. And it's interesting to see what they slightly missed the mark on, but which reflects something interesting about our current culture. I think that a lot of people use cyberpunk as sort of this limp set dressing, as sort of an aesthetic slop to wash over stuff.
We watch Sensuality Noir.
Yeah, well,
Shut the fuck up.
it's still on the list. I'm bound by Eldritch Geese to watch every single piece of cyberpunk media ever made by humans. So
I'm sorry.
So what do you think about Sensuality Noir?
Because there's good, but there's bad.
It's a gift and a curse. So I watched Demon Lord 2099, and that feels like it was on similar par.
Oh my God, I love Boku no Piku. How do you know?
Oh my God. All right, moving swiftly along. I'm the goof. Okay, so
You're blue
This
and
is a
you have
funny-
an electric whip. You're the goof.
This is no Zaku boy. No Zaku.
Rumbarol?
yeah, our fifth mic here today. So this is a funny situation, right? Because like for the Metal Gear, Brian had a very strong relationship to Metal Gear Solid and like led us through, and especially me, because like Alice had the history with it, but I had nothing other than memes. Like all I knew about Metal Gear Solid 5 was the "you also have the spirit of living moss" Taco Bell meme. Anyway, and now I'm in the chair and I'm in an interesting position of leading us through the Year in the Shell, having only really seen the first movie. And so I keep having these experiences of like, I have heard about Standalone Complex forever. I remember I was talking to y'all the other day about the bootleg DVDs I used to get from my dad secondhand. But every once in a while, there would be a real DVD in there, and they would have previews for like what was hot in anime. And like it was almost like never thematically put together. They were just like, you like anime, right? You want an ad for like the latest dating anime and also Ghost in the Shell and also, you know, whatever the fuck else was coming out at the time.
That's how it was.
And so I saw Standalone Complex a lot in like those little snippets. I just never got my hands on it. And like, I don't think I watched the Ghost in the Shell movie until about 7 or 8 years ago. And then I was all in on the movie, and I was fortunate enough to see when they released it in theaters. I went and saw it with the surround sound and everything, and with the subtitles, which for me was huge. That was a wonderful experience. And so that's kind of why I was willing to hop on to lead this, because I knew I was going to have a fun time with my friends. But it is also funny getting to the, what did you know about media before we chose to cover it? Everybody else has got a personal story, and I'm like, hi, I'm new around here.
I'm new in town.
What's this sack y'all keep tapping? Anyway.
Hey, but Niko, what happened in Standalone Complex Season 1, Episodes 1 through 13?
Thank you so much for asking. I would love to tell you about it. So, in the year 2030, advancing technology has radically changed the world, with widespread use of prosthetic bodies, cyber brains, and powerful mechanized military platforms, creating new challenges for keeping order. Standalone Complex follows Section 9, a special operations task force that investigates high-level crime perpetrated with technology. This group of former military and police personnel are led at the highest level by Chief Aramaki and on the ground by Major Motoko Kusanagi. SAC reunites us with versions of Section 9 operatives we know from other media, Bato, Tokusa, and Ishikawa, and introduces new specialists and field agents. Just like a fun cast of characters. I was excited to see
my
more
beloved
little guys. Yeah. In the first part of Season 1, the world of SAC is detailed in standalone episodes touching on hot swappable identities, berserk robots, and the human-machine divide, but largely tells the story of the Laughing Man cyber terrorism case. The Laughing Man first appeared holding the president of a Micro Machine Corporation hostage on TV news and compelling him at gunpoint to tell the truth about something. This was largely notable because it suggested the Laughing Man was also an extremely skilled hacker, In the broadcast, on CCTV footage, and in the cyber brains of all who witnessed the event, his face was replaced by a stylized laughing face logo. 6 years on, the continuing investigation into the case goes from stagnant to reopened as the Laughing Man resurfaces, exposes corruption in the highest levels of the Japanese police, and perpetrates a chilling series of cyberbrain hacks that resemble possessions. As Section 9 investigates, the story of what the Laughing Man wanted brought to light suggests collusion with corporations and rot in the Japanese government all the way to the top. And with that, we're going to go ahead and throw to the break and come back afterwards to talk for 3 hours. Hey, Niko here in the break. Just wanted to let you know that while this is a podcast, and we'll always do our best to describe visuals we're commenting on, we'll also include links to the mechs and images we discuss in the show notes, and post actual photos on our show website. Along with that, make sure to check the show notes for content warnings as appropriate to the episode. That's all for now. Back to the show.
Well, listen, you dig giant robots. I dig giant robots, and I think I have it on fairly reasonable confidence that chicks dig giant robots.
I'm a chicks. I digs giant robots.
Yeah.
Same.
I've been a fan of mecha media for a long, long time, kind of sprouting out of like coming into anime stuff kind of in my teens and being really fascinated with it. It grew into kind of alongside me getting into comics as a long-term career and getting really, really heavily into just the broad range of narratives you can tell with mecha media, and especially the transhumanist angle of it, the being able to express yourself through a very outsized version of your own body and exert change on the world based on that. Little heaven will be mine-ishness, you know? I would say with Masumune Shiro's stuff, I remember really, really getting into Appleseed first in college. The comic Appleseed. Appleseed's a really great comic.
And a great anime.
Nope, not correct.
Amazing anime.
It is definitely, it inspires awe. No.
Damning with faint praise.
One day my husband Briarios will come back from the wars, but
someday.
Yeah, no, I'm just a big fan of a lot of different robot stuff. I have a robot project that I've been working on for a long time, but just hasn't, I haven't had the time to finish it with Story of My Life. Like I said, I'd say probably my favorite mech series of all time is still The Big O, which I caught very early on Toonami, and which absolutely is this perfect melding of like cool robot fights, but also like old school 70s robots and also French New Wave cinema that like took over my brain.
And Batman.
Yeah, it's great. I hope you do an episode on it someday. It's so good. But anyways.
It's in the plans.
Excellent.
Look, after Giant Robot FM completely did the best coverage I've ever heard, we'll get there, but goddamn.
We're the jesters, okay? Giant Robot FM is like the scribes, and we're the jesters. And both are important.
So my follow-up question to this question is always, what's your favorite mech?
Oh, man. I mean, obviously the Mega Days from Big O's an obvious point. I really like right now with my... The easier way to answer this is, what's your favorite mech right now?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. In this moment.
In this moment. Watching The Witch from Mercury got me into Gundam really hard, and I'm currently trying to work through every filmed piece of Gundam ever.
Oh, was that your first exposure to Gundam?
That was my first Gundam, yeah. And now I'm like...
It wasn't even like G-Savior?
No, I was like, I heard this one's got lesbians, and it's Utena.
She.
Can't keep getting away with it!
So I gotta get into that shit.
Hey, we got Utina again.
She.
Can't keep getting away with it!
Is she back?
She's back. But I really like my favorite robot from G-Witch is Choo Choo's Demi Trainer. I have a little model of it.
Oh, I like that
because
one.
I've got mine downstairs. I love them.
It's like the training robot, but she modded it to be her own super cool robot. It still looks like it was built in 1978, and it smells like cigarettes inside of it. That is peak robot design. I love that. And I'm also playing a lot of Pacific Drive recently, so I'm going to say the car from Pacific Drive is my other favorite mech right now.
So I've broken our discussion of SAC into 5 parts. And the only reason it's that many parts is because I kind of divided it by the standalone episodes in little clumps and then the complex episodes in little clumps. So we can jump right into it. The part 1 that I have here is episodes 1, 2, and 3, which are standalone episodes. And the kind of shorthand descriptors I would give of these episodes. Episodes 1, hot swapping with geishas in the name of the American Empire. Episode 2 is defying your religious parents to become a huge, beautiful tank. And episode 3 is why you probably shouldn't get a robot girlfriend and why you definitely shouldn't make every other version of her commit suicide. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
So episode 1 introduces
Weird
us
that
to
those
Section
were the
9
episode
again.
names, by the way.
Yeah, those are what they called them legally. They're trying to be more direct. Episode 1, I think, is kind of workhorse in the sense...
It sets so much of the setting of what Section 9 does. I think it's very good at, like, look, I'm going to say it up top. I love Law & Order Special Robot Victim Unit. I really do.
Yeah, it kind of is.
I want to be clear. I don't like cops in real life, and I don't approve of
ACAB
cops.
does unfortunately include Section 9. And the Tachikomas.
What about extrajudicial paramilitary units?
Extremely hella no, but...
Run by a gorilla man?
Yeah, that's probably better. My fucking very brave spouse saw me, like, adoring the Tachikomas, and they're like, yeah, those are cop robots, right? And I looked at them, and I was like, yeah, ACAB includes the Tachikomas. And they were like, exactly, thank you. You just have to say it once.
They're the Boston Dynamics robot dogs, yeah.
They're cop mini tanks, thank you, not robots, okay? Words have meanings.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys agree with me. I think that it takes them a little bit of time in this show to learn how to draw the major.
I have some thoughts about the major in this one for sure. I think they dialed in everyone who's wearing a slightly baggy suit very quickly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do think it took them a while to dial in. It's interesting. There was a quote in the production notes I was looking at where the director was talking about it took him a while to dial in the major period, like as a character to kind of understand her and her motivations, which...
And it kind of shows.
I don't know. That was interesting to me, and it kind of shows. I think it isn't until later episodes we start getting a little more of her history and she starts having more of a personality.
Well, she starts up very taciturn. She's very much like, I am a cyborg woman doing cyborg woman extrajudicial police activities.
Yeah.
And eventually she starts talking about her ghost, and then she starts talking about her childhood. But yeah, as her drawing gets better, so does her character.
I also want to say too, you probably, in the era that this came out, you want to put your Oshi foot forward in this kind of stuff because he's like still the primary linchpin for why Ghost in the Shell is on the map, and so like people are gonna chase Oshi's version of like the world and like the characters for a while.
Well, he was very involved in the production of this. Like he was part of the production committee.
Yeah, and then you kind of get she does kind of get to have like a little bit of I don't know, more roundness to her. We love the major in the other films, but it's a little bit one note in terms of just like she doesn't appear to enjoy anything or like do anything outside of work. Do you know what I mean? But this gives us a little bit more. And it's gay.
I think she's in an interesting mold that I think Irish you probably are like really familiar with. While I didn't watch a lot of Ghost in the Shell, I was reading a lot of William Gibson early. So when I think of the major, I think of her in the same kind of category as a character like Molly Millions, which is your stone cold killer badass woman who has depths, but like the first impression you get when you see her is just, damn, she's cool. Like, that's kind of your first thing, and it takes a while to get into the character more.
She's not like other girls.
No.
She's not like any women on screen, because
there's no women in this show, yeah.
Almost none.
Yeah, there are, and they're all dating the major.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's
Alice
true.
is like, don't worry, I did note every time the major interacted with a woman.
With a women. I think this first one is cool. I love the idea of drunkenly hot swapping with a geisha robot as a gender thing. I think that was a unique little like story part of it.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, they don't touch that like at all. Like there's little allusions because at one point, like when they're reviewing the footage, there's this almost like implied comfort with swapping between bodies of different genders. And there's almost this implied comfort with like, yeah, they may be involved. It may not be public, but like these two men may be involved. Like, it's all blink if you miss it stuff, but like if you're a queer viewer, I think you're like, I'm here. I have my slow motion goggles. I'm not gonna miss a moment.
Bird watching the queer shit in sack.
I think mostly what we're here for in the first episode is just to kind of show everyone's different competencies. Like Togusa gets to be a detective, et cetera, et cetera.
But the assault is so hyperly competent. The assault, because the robot geishas are all like holding ready to snap necks.
It's so cool.
Optic camo in Ghost in the Shell, I want to say in all the other series, is hyper convenient. It is there when they need it, and they never use it when they don't want to use it for the plot. But in SAC, they are constantly utilizing that optic camo in ways that I really enjoy. And the
effect looks cool every time.
It's so good.
It's a little bit of something in the notes here that we were going to talk about is just like, this is an anime that both has hand-drawn components and it makes pretty liberal use of CGI as well. But I think there's something really interesting to look at here between the opening, which uses a lot of CGI. I jokingly said Code Lyoko looking ass, but like it's kind of the finished CGI that we're used to from this period. Things are very shiny. They're very proud of like how they've done like lighting and reflections. So there's a ton of that. Like it's all very over detailed and uncanny valley in that way that early animation was.
It's very graphics card box art is how I've always referred to it.
Yeah, that's a great pull for it. Yeah, music videos. But then when you get into just real quick, when you get into the animation, those CG models don't have that overproduction in the way like we talked about Ghost in the Shell, the manga volume 2, where things were just like dropped in and there was like an art style conflict. This doesn't really have that. They at least made an effort to try to make the CG look like drawn, line rendered, cell painted stuff.
So I think you can take like a pretty good like linear line of how mecha CGI has been utilized over the years. And this is very early, but the way that they do the tachikomas and everything is they kind of have that two-tone coloring that is very evocative of a drawn art. And mecha anime, as you got into like the late 2000s, went way too hyper realistic with the shading and the lighting on it that it just looked so out of place. I think of Knights and Magic a lot. More than anyone should ever think of Knights and Magic, because it just like the mecha didn't fit with the rest of the art style. So in a way that I didn't really enjoy. But now you get later on, and touching on the things that we've touched on the podcast, Synduality Noir kind of has this same kind of two-tone applique to it with the lighting. And Metallic Rouge does this as well with the power suits. And so I think this is way advanced for what the medium is doing, and that they had the CGI, but they were like, how do we make it fit into a drawn palette where everything is a matte drawing? And I think they do really good with it, especially the tachikomas. They fit.
Tachikomas look great.
They do this stuff with the cars, all of the vehicles in the show too, and it looks incredible for 2002.
Like, you still know it's CGI, but you're not whiplashed out of it like you were in Innocence.
Mm-hmm. It feels...
Yeah, for sure.
It feels natural.
Bright, you're our number one CGI hater. What was your vibe? Like, what was your feeling? Do you remember having a historical feeling about it? And did you have something on a rewatch?
Yeah, I mean, I never loved, like, the CG elements of the show. I'm on record saying I like the Fujikomas a little bit more than I like the Tachikomas. I think that I had forgotten how much actually really sick Tachikoma action is in this show, actually. So that kind of brought it back up for me. And having been thoroughly, I guess, dulled by a lot of really bad CGI that we've watched on this show.
What are you talking
I think
about?
It looks...
What do you think about the price of Smiles?
I think Smiles should be free. Just comparative, like this looks great. I think the color palette on the Tachikomas does a lot of lifting to make them look good. But like when you see them get shot to shit, it looks incredible. Like the fact
that they take the time to actually draw damage on them puts this above most CGI mecha.
Yeah. I love when Tachikoma gets stuck. I love when Tachikoma gesticulate. It all looks good. Yeah.
I love them so much. That's why my partner made me say Tachikoma is in ACAP, because I was obviously falling in love with them.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'll say about like this first episode, beyond just like the implications of like,
we've
discussed The American Empire, obviously. But we've discussed, like, with Metallic Rouge, like, the idea of body-sized mecha being a thing that we could talk about conceptually. This series just starts episode 1. Yeah, cyber brains. You can swap them. Like, people swap between bodies. You can do this kind of thing. Like, item 1 right out the gate. And item 2, robot geishas always look fucking cool, especially when they explode and you can see the internal bits. Like, it just looks good. I'm sorry, like, fuck ScarJo movie, but the Weta Workshop designs of the robot geishas always are gonna whip. Like,
I love when you're a robot, you can just hold someone in a headlock for like multiple hours.
yeah, you can just hang out.
Yeah.
I want a
it's
robot
just
guy
so
to
good.
hold me in a headlock for multiple hours. This is
I know
an
you
open
do.
call
I know
to
you do, my
action.
beloved.
We know, Alice. But I think episode 2 is the most, like, our shit.
Shut the fuck up. Episode 2 is mecha. That's it.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
This is mechs. So episode 2 fucking whips. Cold open, we're in a military testing facility and this fucking tank just like... So I love that they wait until it's a live fire episode. What Ghost in the Shell does very well is it doesn't outright tell you everything that is happening on screen and you can imply it. So you know that this is a live fire exercise because the military guy's watching. And it blows up the other 2 tanks. First off, rest in peace, the green tread boy. Never seen again in this series.
No,
It looked good.
looked good.
Could make
cute.
a good tractor.
But also blows up another one. So this mech just leaves. It just fucking... It blows up the only things that can stop it in the entire province, and it leaves. And this whole story is great, right? Like, the idea of the religious mindset of you can't get a cybernetic body. And they do more with this kind of in later in SAC too, but I love the idea of like cyberization, much like transitioning, will be something that religions are going to be against, and you might have imposed on you from your parents.
R.I.P. Val Kilmer, you would have hated this episode.
Right?
Yeah, no, I really like, and I think especially like since the assassination of Shinzo Abe and like the exposure of like the Moonies cult. Yeah, obviously the official OHG stance is based.
Oh, I thought you said fake. I was like, we're Shinzo Abe assassination deniers.
Shinzo Abe was an inside job. His head just did that.
Contraptions can't melt prime minister faces.
But like there's been a lot more scrutiny than I think like especially in the West, like there wasn't a lot of awareness about like Japanese religion and like Japanese cults. Like I think in America especially, like we have a long history of having various different types of cults. But like, I really
Me
don't
when
think
I have a
people
long history of having a various types of cult.
Yeah. But what I remember, like,
I'm just saying
they did a really great segment on this on another mech podcast I listened to, Mobile Suit Breakdown. Shout out to Tom
Yes.
and Nina.
Hi, Tom.
Nice.
Hi, Nina. We love you.
But they did a segment on this about how like there was kind of a decline in traditional religious belief in Japan after the war, which led to a lot of people seeking spiritual sort of enlightenment and fulfillment from alternative sources, including wacky new age cults. And that's how you get stuff like the Moomies. The Moomies?
The
Moomins.
The Moomins.
Stuff like
Moomins.
Aum
The
Shinrikyo.
Moomins.
And, yeah.
You can do one of two things if you get nuked. You can either get into a weird cult or make anime. Those are the two things you can do post nuke.
Those are the two genders. Which way, Eastern man?
Can I talk about my favorite mech in this episode?
Yes.
Go for it.
So we have a new character in Section 9. His name is Saito. He's a sniper, and he has the biggest fucking sniper rifle you've ever seen in your goddamn life. I love this thing so much.
I love his friend helping drill the stationary support
Yes.
in.
Yes.
The other cop snipers in the background who just feel like shit because Saito's there with his super sniper.
What are you going to do? Tell him not to do it?
I can't.
But yeah, exactly.
Niko can't know, but you both know the Saito episode and how fucking banger it's gonna be.
I'm excited. I like snipers as characters generally. I think they're interesting as like a trope almost. Like the person who is distant, but probably the most dangerous. But also, they're kind of a glass cannon. Like they have a very limited use case.
So the one scene, so they're basically cop coded. There's this giant tank. We're just gonna follow it until it gets into the depths of a city center to do anything about it. But there's a scene where they remove a blockade, which, okay, cops in this show, overfunded. They're always just there in their little van, standing in a line, holding rifles. What are we doing, cops?
I love when the Tachikomas drive by and they're all like, "Oh my god, those are like the real cops that actually do the jobs." Whoa.
The Tachikoma that just says "wow" as the tank walks by.
God. Wow.
That's Max.
Tachikoma
That
voice.
is
Wow.
Max. Wow. Sense of scale times 1,000. Just like once you see this next to a Tachikoma, you're like, oh, this is why this is a problem.
Yeah. But what I was going to bring up with the religion piece is the interesting intersection. Ghost in the Shell is very interested in technology, but it also like is really good in like all the incarnations I've seen of like pulling in real world stuff that isn't explicitly about technology and then seeing how that would interact with the technologies that we're seeing.
I think that's one of the things about, because I'm not someone who's like super into cyberpunk generally, because I have a hard time understanding how it can be effectively generated. And like, I've obviously seen a ton of use cases with this show. I've read some Gibson. But like when there's a genre that I have a hard time understanding how I would fold a story into it, it's just difficult for me. But
also,
I think one of the
time
things,
you touch mirror shades, you get a bunch of fingerprints on them and it's frustrating.
yeah. And that would drive me absolutely nuts.
Molly Million just always. But yeah, like I think it's really interesting. I always like Iris brought up the transhumanism of it. Like I've been obsessed with that.
Transhumanism?
yes.
Makes you think.
Whoa. Coincidence?
The more you know. But I realized that I've always really been interested in it. To come at it from a different angle, like being a fat woman, I've always had a certain revulsion for the body that I think has some universal aspects that, like, I feel like there are a lot of people who, if they're made to feel alienated from their body for any reason, are gonna find some kinship with stories of where, like, you can be a different form. And this one just hit. Like, episode 2, I was like, oh, we're in it. Like, we're just in it. This is my new tank body because you wouldn't let me get a normal
Allyship
prosthesis.
is
Fuck
putting
you,
your
Mom.
friend's brain case into the mech that they designed so that they can kill their parents who wouldn't let them transition. That's allyship.
The springtime of Yowie, just whatever was happening between these two guys in this episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, straight up, like that was the first thing when he is gripping that chain link fence at the beginning. I was immediately like, oh, he's gay.
Oh yeah.
The other
this robot.
the other one I want to call out. So this whole thing is really cool in a mech sort of sense, but I love that she has a little gunpla of his design on the shrine that she's holding.
Well, it's implied that like it was something he made as like a prototype.
Yeah, that
and
was
then
a
he
prototype
died
model.
with it.
Yeah.
Because they show like when he collapses and like apparently dies, and it's like it's wild that they would keep that because it was attached to that moment for their son. Like
also, as a child, he showed a skill in weapon design as a child.
Yes.
that
yeah,
guy was
I love
making
Metal Gear.
Counter-Strike mods.
He's on the War Thunder forums. He's friends with the Emmerich. I want to say we cannot go into this level of detail in every episode. We'll be here all
sorry.
fucking day.
No, this
But
is
I
just
do
the
want to
one that I
say,
want to zoom in on as mechs for me is this one episode.
yeah, I do want to say this episode does something that I think is incredibly genius, like in terms of cinema, which is that we get a fake out of the arm tearing scene that happens in every Ghost in the Shell show.
Yeah.
And
that was
I think
really cool.
It
I
was
like,
it was such a genius thing to do, to be like, okay, here's the motif, but actually we're going to do something different. This is a different show. We're interested in a longer game, and we're not going to just pull this card out every fucking time the Major has to fight a tank.
Goo gun.
And it also got to show off, like, I think in different incarnations of Ghost in the Shell, other people do more with, like, the brain hacking stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This got to show the Major, like, neutralizing a target via brain connection, which I think was really cool. Also, I like the little nod to the corporation is selling the multiped tank, but of course they also have in their back pocket, you sell the problem and you sell the solution. So they're selling the multiped tank. They also have in their back pocket the big glue gun that you can use to stop any multiped
Bullet
tank.
belt, goo bazooka.
Goo bazooka. Aramaki has to strong arm them into doing it, which I love Aramaki. He's so competent.
I love that. Like they're almost willing to let this tank rampage more to protect the secret of how they have to stop a tank doing this than to actually like do. Yeah, I love that note.
I love goo.
Moving on to episode 3. I think we can gloss this one pretty quickly just because I think this is a theme we've touched on before. I brought up like the movie Air Doll, the idea of like having a robot girlfriend and how much you project onto her versus like the ultimate question this episode leaves you with is, was she developing a ghost? Which is something I think we're going to revisit in other episodes. But like, I think there's a lot of interesting twists and turns in this one about like what it means to love a robot who like isn't programmed in a sophisticated enough way to actually love you back versus like, what if that love could be emergent?
This is also my first counter in Togus as a dipshit bigot. He's a dipshit bigot in this episode. In some episodes, Togus is a dipshit bigot. This is one of them.
Togusa exists
Sometimes
to
he
be
has
like,
to be the
why
cop.
are you guys weird? The one thing I want to call out about this is I love the movie Her, but also there was recently, and I know none of you know about this because we're not 60-year-old people, but there was a 60 Minutes episode recently in the last couple of weeks about people with AI girlfriends or partners. And I don't, you know about character.ai, right? We all are aware of its existence.
I can guess what it is, but no, I don't.
Yeah.
If you've written any kind of fan fiction or if you've been on AO3 and seen tags specifically asking for works not to be fed into AI, a lot of that is because there are people who will take fan fiction, feed it into the character AI so that they can have virtual conversations with this character based on specific media they like. And like, as a fanfic writer, fuck off. Don't do that with my work. Like,
Wow, that's pathetic and evil.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's awful. But I mean, the guy in this one's a piece of shit, and this is the only thing I can think of when I think of those C.AI people. And if you're a listener who does that, hey, human
Think about
connection
your life
is great.
maybe a little bit.
Iris, you have a note in this episode.
Oh yeah,
I wanted to give
I do like
a moment
if
to.
it's a blink and you'll miss it detail, but the guy's name is Marshall McLuhan, which is a possible reference to Herbert Marshall McLuhan, the Canadian media philosopher who, among many things, first outlined the concept of a world wide web. His
I feel like it's got to be.
oh yeah, he was also
They do so many of these little things, and I'm glad you caught it because I never would.
he was
have.
the guy who also said that the medium is the message, as in the shape
Oh
of
shit, that's an iconic
the
fucking
shape
phrase.
of a piece of media determines the kind of impact that it'll have on people.
The purpose of the thing is what it does.
Yeah, so
That kind
this
of
dumb
energy.
guy was named after a smart guy. Isn't that cool?
That's so cool. I love when media is doing that. It's really deep. Another really deep thing that happened is that for some reason there's a bunch of the movie that Togus' wife is watching when he comes home at the end is a real French New Wave film called Breathless.
Yes.
And the
Wow.
lines spoken by the android as well as that actual scene are real lines and real scenes, and they just like decided to animate them. I don't
That's
know.
great.
It's kind of cool.
I really love it.
See, this is the shit. This is the shit. Ghost
Yeah.
in the Shell's just like, oh, by the way.
They were just smoking
Yeah.
that French New Wave back in the early aughts.
yeah.
They do a call out to Alphaville in this movie too, which like, hey, if you like
Yeah, they
Standalone
did. I saw
Complex,
that.
watch Alphaville. It's great.
That's actually real recommendation of OSG. Watch Alphaville. It's so good. Wait. I want to one other thing, which is Iris's last note, which is, are we talking about Tachikomatic days? Because this is my favorite one of the Tachikomatic days. Is the
What are those? Because I think I missed those.
So there's a little 2-minute in the downloaded version, which, hey guys, streaming is terrible. If you download this, the shorts are separate, but in airing, they were little 1 minute, 1.5 or 2 minute little shorts about the Tachikomas in their nightly sync after each episode.
Oh, the normalization.
the
stuff.
normalization.
Yeah.
But it's them in a
All
white
right, I'm
space
about to drop a
talking.
bonus episode that's just me screaming for 10
Honestly,
minutes
we
after
can-
watching all those.
So the one in this one, one of the Tachikomas had been left back, and she comes in, and all the other Tachikomas are offline and destroyed. And she's just like, "Oh, I didn't get destroyed because I was at home." And she finds a souvenir that the major left her.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because earlier she was like, hey, when people go on trips, they bring back souvenirs. You going to get me a souvenir? And the major's like, what the okay.
And anyway, this is my favorite one of those. I love these. These are such good, like, guys. Mechas are great. Mech is
Some
great.
of them are really nothing to me. I really like when the Jameson machine shows up in them.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to spend time with those. I'm the stupidest bitch on earth. Anyway.
That's it. I just wanted to get
part-
that out of the way
yeah.
to say that, hey, there's a little cap for each of these episodes, and they really do need to be watched right after the episode because they are informed by them if you watch this.
And they're also like little palate cleansers for after particularly heavy episodes. It's like watch these little spiders goof off for like 2 minutes. That's it.
Oh, you mean we need a palate cleanser after we talk about human trafficking and skinning of people alive?
Oh,
we're gonna get there. Oh my god. Okay. In part 2, we get into our first complex episode. So this is our first like introduction to the Laughing Man incident and a lot of the modern stuff that's happening around the Laughing Man incident. So in these episodes, I mean, the kickoff event, I do like this. The kickoff to this is that Togusa has an old friend in the police. He was recruited out of the police force. And his old friend is on the task force that is still like investigating this 6-year-old case of the Laughing Man incident that I mentioned in the summary. And he reaches out and is like, I've discovered something really fucking weird in this case, and I think it implicates the higher ups. Like, can we meet and talk about this? And he gets ganked. And, like, that's such a classic, like, cop movie type thing. Like, somebody had spy movies, too. They love to do the, like, I've got a lead, I have to meet you, and then the other party doesn't make it. But, like, that is such a cool kickoff to then getting into the Laughing Man coming back up because of the use, for the most part, it seems, of interceptors. Which, let's get into the surveillance state.
Yeah, let's. This is one of the greatest episodes of television ever made to me. The specific way that Togusa is like put at the forefront here, and the kind of detective stuff that he gets to do, where he's like realizing that like all the photos that he's gotten don't have the camera in them. When he when like the interceptor thing comes out of like the general picture of what the Laughing Man is up to, like that's the kind of mecha thing to me this season, which is the way that the Laughing Man is able to kind of trouble the way that the cyber body as a mech mediates the world around you.
Mm-hmm.
And he appears to like, there are so many people, and if you kind of go back and watch them again, as we have multiple times, you'll notice that like there are so many people in the background. There are so many individual actors in this episode and the other complex episode that we're going to talk about that their behavior makes absolutely no fucking sense. And it's an interesting thing to kind of talk about when we get the full picture of what's going on here. But I love this episode. It's so good.
And I think one thing we can really talk about here is something that like, if you are into transhumanism, if you are futurist, not in the Elon Musk way, but in the idea that like technology is kind of cool and it could solve some of our problems, not all of our problems, but like if we used it, I mean, the classic William Gibson quote is the future is here. It's just not evenly distributed. Like the idea that we actually use technology to benefit society as opposed to generating profit. A big thing that you have to think about, I think, is like, especially if you have any background in like cybersecurity, if you make your brain a computer, malware exists, hackers exist, and more than anything, corporations who don't care about the ethics of imposing things onto your devices also exist. And so I think the Laughing Man opens up a lot of this because one, the Laughing Man literally live edits people's cyber brains. The only people who don't see the logo are the homeless guys who can't afford the technology. Like, again, Ghost in the Shell, blink and you miss it. Hey, this is a feature of society. Bah, just whatever. And then, so that is troubled by the Laughing Man, but then also the dissemination without consent and without actually following like the prescribed letter of the law to have like an impartial observer and to have all this different stuff for the use of interceptors. It's all there. Like, if you're thinking about, man, I wish I had a robot body, it'd be really cool. You do also have to think about, and would I be skilled enough to keep myself from being manipulated in a way that is new to me?
Mm-hmm.
Iris pointed out a good thing in their notes about the weaponization of the deployment of new technologies by a policing force and how they will just not follow the written rule and they'll fudge it, right? Like the fact that the detectives have it installed, like this dude's just brushing his teeth and he's intercepted. Like wild.
Nobody is blinking an eye at the fact that interceptors exist. It's the fact that, oh no, they were fudged in order to be installed.
Yeah.
The whole thing, I think it's interesting because I think we're balking at a lot of new advent technologies right now because of some of their like potential use cases. And like and we're seeing the liquidization of so many oversight bodies in real time at the same time. So like,
and we saw like separate but connected. I think the issue of like what has been done in Palestine also guts a lot of like people's conviction about international court of law. So not only is America dissolving, it's also like, well, I think all the Geneva Conventions might have just been some paperwork. Like, you know,
It's, but yeah, I mentioned that it's really wild that the big scandal is like, oh, we didn't expect the cops to use these on our own cops. What the?
whoa.
Yeah. Having the
cop doing a traffic stop and turning the interceptor off before he
So like I did note that
God.
having this like one thing I read in an interview for this series is that they were really Kamiyama was really into making sure that the series was at a consistent level of quality on par with the 1995 movie. I don't know if it's at the level of 1995's movie, but I will say it's in an age where Sakuga is so emphasized nowadays. It's rare to see a series that is so consistent looking from start to finish as this one. It still has flaws, as all art does, but I think that having so much of the plot hinge on talking about bureaucratic red tape and a lot of these sort of political issues and a lot of dudes sitting in cars and offices talking really intensely at each other about this stuff, it felt very modern day Hideaki Anno to me. Like very like Shin Godzilla, very that kind of thing.
Oh, sure. Yeah, totally.
And it felt
Absolutely.
It felt like not a shortcut, but an easy way to refocus the series so that they could keep things at a consistent level of quality without absolutely blowing the budget on the Major getting her arms torn off every other episode.
It's weird because Ghost in the Shell in a production capacity versus so a movie you have one deadline. And I think, you know, you mentioned Shirobako, but like Ghost in the Shell SAC did not have as crunchy of a deadline process in its production as like modern anime. And I think it does show. Like, it's not going to be movie level, but it is consistent. Sorry, Niko, what?
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, Alice, do you want to talk about women? I think it's important.
Sorry.
Yeah, get clear.
Women. I think
you.
so. This is going to be very unsubtle as we go through this, but the major has always been gender goals for me. And
just keep it realistic.
Women in Ghost in the Shell standalone complex are luckily not a part of the bullshit that's going on unless they're victims of trafficking. But generally, they exist to be mad that the major isn't having sex with them in that moment. And so Major goes over to her polycule house, and the girls are like, hey, Major, we're going to hang out on the giant oversized plush bed together. And she's like, I've got to look at crime files autistically. This is so good. This is such a good character, because when we think about Section 9, Togusa has a wife and kids. That is the extent of the sexualization of Section 9 until we have the Major, who just hangs around women. Now,
no, sorry. We do have Bato. His sexuality is the major.
True.
Yeah.
Putting jackets on the major can be a sexuality. But I think having read the manga, which I think has been very good that we did this before you came to this, Niko. You know what chapter this is in the manga.
Yeah, the method is paying off here in a major way. Like, no pun intended. It is paying off. I can draw lines from certain things, but I can also see where Sack in particular pulls back a little bit. Like, I mean, especially in volume 2 of the manga, we saw Masamune Shiro go really like ecchi forward. And this series will like touch on some of those preoccupations, especially about how women are depicted, but also like it doesn't quite go as deep. I will say this, I'm just going to bring it up once so that I can feel a certain way about it. I think the thing I struggled with most in this show so far is how the major is drawn. And it not just in terms of like stylization, but the moment when they're tracing the laughing man and they get duped and they go into his headquarters. You mentioned this in your notes. And they turn his chair around dramatically and what's in it is a sex doll. I've been haunted. Okay, everybody put a point down for hauntings. I've been haunted by the specter of the idea that the Major more closely resembles that sex doll than any of her coworkers. And like, I think the exception to this is when she's in like a military uniform. We see her in this series of episodes too. We see her in that. But I struggled a lot with how much of this series is guys in slightly ill-fitting suits having really interesting conversations in rooms. And then if the Major is in the frame, she looks like she's from a different show.
She straight up does. This is especially noticeable early on. I will say the way that she's blocked in the first, I would say 6 episodes, they kind of do away with a little bit. But there is a lot of like, her tits and waist and ass are framing the entire interesting conversation between baggy men in the office. She's crammed into her Tachikoma the way that one lady that I hate from Majestic Prince when we were playing Super Robot Wars is crammed into her cockpit. And so like that stuff goes away a little bit.
It's difficult.
But I hear you.
It's difficult to reconcile, right? Because like I'm a lesbian. Like I like women. I like looking at women. But I also don't view them in the same way. Like I've had straight guys try to go, you and me, bro. Like we're on this. And I'm like, I live in a female.
Sorry,
in,
I try to do that with Niko all the time.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah, you try to do that with me all the time. And I'm just like, get out of here. I'm going to officiate your gay wedding. Yeah, I struggled with it a little bit as someone attracted to women, but also someone who identifies as a woman. Like,
so I think it's this weird intersection of the gaze of the producer and the gaze of the world, because I think in the world of a standalone complex, it's both caught in a cyberpunk futuristic, anyone can kind of dress in a crazy way. I think of the nurse.
Latex is wearable daily.
The nurse in the later episode who's just nipping and has like angel ears on her back. And everyone's just like, that's normal. But at the same time, when this was made, the style of baggy clothes for men was the fashion. And the style for women was high cut waists. And so I think it's informed by that. But I also think the fact that there is a gaze of the camera in all of this that is like, yes, it sexualizes her a lot. But in the world of it, no one really sexualizes the Major. They don't sexualize the sex dolls. We get to an episode later where there's just the 2 BDSM women just hanging out who have a cool fight with the Major. And like, they're all in what would be called hypersexualized outfits, right? But at no way in the world is anyone treating this as anything other than them just hanging out in clothes. And I think this has to do with like cybernetics, right? When you think of cybernetics, you're already wearing a cybernetic body. That is you presenting yourself to the world in a specific way. And the Major has decided the clothing she is going to wear is a sexy ass little cinched waist body. And she's decided, I'm going to dress in this way. And she changes outfits. So it's not the outfit that's the problem. It's how she presents herself.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree.
I was with you until you said it's not the outfit that's the problem, but
I did have a couple of instances of cognitive dissonance where I'm like, I really don't like that this is what I'm seeing. And then I also had like the opposite feeling when the Major was in like tactical clothing. I'd be like, woo, you look great, queen. Like,
Yeah, no,
pants. Like, we love
she
it.
looks not to skip ahead to episode 13, but she is in the most like actual military outfit in that episode, and she looks great.
Everybody's outfits in that are fucking banger.
They're fucking good.
Anyways, the point here is that they should have made Bato sluttier.
I know. I'm like, if we're gonna say all this about your cyber body being closed, Bato should have been in a jockstrap.
I'm personally, my personal opinion is, yes, I agree that it's jacked up that she's shot like that and dressed like that and stuff like that. Also, I fully agree with the whole dissonance of like, but I am a lesbian and I am trans, and if I got a smoking hot robot body, I'd be getting my cans out all the time. I got a bunch of surgery work, which is almost the closest thing, and I do get my cans out all the time, so it's kind of the similar thing. But also, that's bad because men made this, but I feel like, for me, squaring the circle is, it's got to be horny world. You got to make everybody gets to have a little bit of that if they want. It can't just be this one character. And I get that
Show me Bato's cum gutters.
I get that was how it was with the one character in the manga, but like, if this is the future, and also like people can be in whatever bodies they want, and this is a normal thing to think about, you got to have people wearing wacky shit all the time.
I will say, what you just said made me think, I think it would be interesting if people treated the Major's presentation the way that they treat the Jameson later
Yes.
when we run into the box. Because
Yes.
a lot of people are weirded out by that presentation, which is a very specific type of presentation. Yeah. I do think it's interesting. So we could kind of go over these as like a unit. So like once this interceptor stuff starts coming out, what a lot of people presume to be the original Laughing Man starts perpetrating these brain hacks. And I love the visual of a brain hack. Literally, you go from a guy who's a very buttoned up cop who's like, here we are at the press conference too, and the purge begins and starts breaking people's arms with a baton and shit. Like, it's a really cool, like, switch. And this whole press conference sequence and the crowdsourced assassination attempt on this... God, what is his title in the police? It's like, I don't know. It's I think he's like the director of the regional police or something.
Oh, I've been calling him the commissioner of something. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, the commissioner. That's the word I was looking for.
President
So,
Bigwood.
like, yeah. It's interesting in this, like, again, weaponizing everyone, and you don't know who is the real actor in this case.
I want your thoughts on this because, like, we get into it. Is this actually a virus, or is this a social movement, a complex?
I think there's an interesting thing happening here. One of the factors in this that we've just lightly touched on is that they're pursuing a specific suspect. So they're pursuing a man named Ina Now as the Laughing Man. They've profiled him. I love that this kind of, I don't know, profiling is shit. It's astrology for cops, but
Well, okay,
he fits
yes,
a profile.
He fits the profile because he worked at the Biotechnic Corporation and has a bunch of motivations to be doing all this stuff. That's basically what it boils down to.
He previously was an activist, and then they fired him when his activist history came out. And so he has an axe to grind. And so they're pursuing him as the main suspect. But we come to find out that, like, that was a red herring, and also it wasn't. Later, we find out that he was doing some kind of work to do subversive stuff. And I think that gestures to what you mentioned as far as, like, it's hard to tell if this was an attack by one expert and if this was a crowd movement of people who are like, actually what the Laughing Man did was based and I should participate in it.
Right. What we find out later is that the Laughing Man is actually kind of a cultural icon. I think one of the things this show does that's kind of interesting is it obfuscates the level to which the Laughing Man is actually like a really prolific cultural figure until after this happens, right? So that you don't know if all of these people are being hacked at once. But, like, you know, of course, the answer turns out to be one guy was hacked. Everyone else was just kind of weird, like grimdark fanboy, right?
Mm-hmm. Or, like, they talk about mass hysteria and, like, if you think about dancing plagues and things like that, when there's sufficient social force, people will do things that seem wildly out of character, but, like, that's what's happening in the moment. This
hits for me every time. I love the idea that art, like, changes people. The Laughing Man logo is a catcher in the rye quote. The series will talk about this a lot more later.
Yes.
But I think that's part of that whole thing that the show's trying to get at.
I think it's interesting. And I know I made an offhanded comment, but you see it in Luigi Mangione, the different arts coming out of him. I can see this in 6 years' time, looking back and things as in that scope. And I feel like this series is cool in that, like, the Laughing Man incident was one thing. And I kind of want to ask you guys about the blackmails after that happened. Were those the Laughing Man himself, or were those inspired attacks?
It's interesting to think about, right? Because the corporate blackmail that happens after the fact seems to be predominantly interested in manipulating stock prices. Like, specifically blackmailing companies under the auspices of the Laughing Man in a way that damages their reputation and causes a change to their stock prices. And we find out, like, Serrano is the one company that managed to avoid that fate. I think it's interesting because this does talk about different approaches to activism. There are people who fully believe, like, there's a whole movement that it's like, if we get Tesla stock under a certain valuation, it causes Elon to default on his loans to buy Twitter. And, like, that is a specific way of attacking Elon Musk that isn't the same as someone who's like, I have a gun and a plant, right? Like, those are very different methods of, like, attack. Same with, like, if we're looking at Ina Now again, if someone had a extremely powerful virus written that would just disable all of Tesla's, like, internal electronics in their cars and make, like, all Teslas impossible to drive, that's a different vector of attack. It's like financial, physical, electronic. This series is really interesting in how it looks at like the ways that pressure and violence can be done. And The Laughing Man seems to encompass all of them in a way that almost suggests it couldn't be all of them because there's such different approaches.
I think that's a really good segue to this note Iris has, which is just that like there's an issue of ideological coherence with The Laughing Man that I think we should talk about. I think of the 99% movement. Do you guys remember back in like
the Occupy movement,
2013?
Yep.
Yeah, Occupy.
Yeah. That I remember getting into. I was in college. I was in the dorms. I remember getting into many arguments with people because I did not feel that movement had a coherent ideology or a coherent movement behind it.
Our fifth mic, leftist infighting.
Yeah, leftist infighting. But yeah, I don't know if you had any like detailed thoughts on this, Iris, or not. But
yeah, I mean, it reminded me a lot of that. And also reminded me of a couple other things, which was one was the Chaz/Chop Occupy protest of 2020 here in Seattle, which was an interesting attempt that was plagued with a lack of focus and that eventually killed its momentum totally, which sucked to be there and watch in real time. And
yeah, no fucking
the
doubt.
other thing that it reminded me of was the late aughts, early 2010s use of the V for Vendetta mask for Anonymous and other online activists.
That's a good pull.
A lot of people tried to co-opt that use, and that's a really interesting case because that's originally from a comic from the mid-1980s that is specifically a polemic against Thatcher-era British fascism. That uses the imagery from the 1600s etchings of Guy Fawkes. So it's this weird recursive through line through history for that. But it was interesting that.
And that seems to tie into The Laughing Man and The Catcher in the Rye.
Exactly.
Like there's like generations.
Well, the logo for The Laughing Man is a rice bag, right? Yes. But I just like it's a cool amalgamation together.
But it's
there
interesting how like we, on the one hand, like you can make this argument, like on the one hand, these ideas, these symbols, these vague concepts have so much more emotional payload than a complex discussion of, we need to reduce the stock price by 0.75%. And we need to, here are our bullet points for our specific needs that we want in this protest movement. We have a mission statement. We have plans. Just having like, yeah, fuck the corpos and fuck the police, man. That's so much easier and cannier to give to people.
Well, and to that degree, like that is the standalone complex, right? Like what is the challenge of having a unique approach when multiple people are trying the same thing? Like the major has a line about multiple copycats with no original. And I think that's like the way that the cultural symbol gets obfuscated and remediated through like the Catcher in the Rye being published, the Laughing Man, whoever he is at this point, reading it, that quote ending up on that symbol, and the continuation of that quote ending up on the baseball mitt later, are all kind of examples of that kind of folding into itself, I think. So
now, would you say that memes are the DNA of the soul?
Yes, I would actually say that the memes are the DNA of the soul.
Fuck
okay,
you. How's that for a meme?
Our sixth mic Ryden.
Yeah. We got a lot of mics in here. Hey, everybody.
Other note, she's wearing her military uniform from the manga. That's it. Love it.
It looks good. It looks good. I actually think there's something very funny about the Major being so undressed that when she is dressed, it's like hotter. It's funny. It's like there's a weird effect happening there. But moving into part 3. So these are standalone episodes. This is 7, 8, and I switched the order a little bit because 9 is an episode about the Laughing Man. So I did 7, 8, and 10 for this part so we could group the standalones. I'm sorry, I know it doesn't feel good, but I'm grouping by content. So, in short,
are you ever 4 guys?
Episode 7, it's the return of ghost dubbing as we saw in Innocence, which in this case, I don't know about the airing schedule. This would have been the introduction of ghost dubbing in an interesting way. as the Yakuza attempt to cover up an international incident of assassinating a guy who was like the Fidel Castro of fictional SAC universe.
It's so
Who
cool.
also
I
dealt
love
drugs.
this.
It's funny. This joke is just for Brian and all of our fans of the Imperial Ratch series. What if Anandar Miatnai was Fidel Castro?
Yeah, literally
What if
though.
one guy was many guys and extremely impossible to assassinate?
Now, this is an incredibly relatable thing that happens in this episode too, which is, are you ever taking a piss and Bato removes a panel from the wall and drags you through it and murders you?
Gifts of all
It
time.
is such a good
We watched
sequence.
this in the Japanese dub this time, but I just want to say, I am a lifelong devotee to the English dub of this series. Richard Epcar
Yes, me
is
too.
a national treasure.
Yes, agreed.
I did end up watching a couple of these episodes in English while I was multitasking, and I would say both performances are good. I just, for some reason, struggle a little bit more with the English.
I love the English. I love Aramaki says, I'm going to work this team like dogs. You're going to earn your paycheck. And Bato barks. That's Your Honor. I love him.
Okay, the barks in English versus the barks in Japanese are wild. Bato is cringe in English and like cringe in Japanese in a different way. Like
That wasn't cringe to me. That was just baby doll. Sorry.
Episode 8 is about organ trafficking in the modern age and touches on a lot of different issues around where do organs go when you're cyberized and what organs can you have replaced and in what ways.
This is the Jameson type body episode.
This is the Jameson type body
Yes.
episode where we meet that. And then
Sorry, can I talk about something in
10
episode
briefly.
7 real quick?
I'm just giving the top level and then we can go. Anyway, episode 10, I would say, fuck the CIA. All my homies hate the CIA. And Bato has like war flashbacks throughout. And also, Bato was correct. Circling back to episode 7 with the Yakuza cover up. Alice, what are you thinking? What are you feeling?
Specifically, I want to talk about one thing that was very mecha to me, because I'm trying to talk about the mecha, which is hard in this because there's so much else. At some point, they're like, we need to get eyes in this room. And Major is like, I'm going to hack into the maid robot.
Yes.
Don't worry, I won't blink. That one line pulls so much weight of like, okay, I know I'm going to be a robot without emotion in it. And she goes in and does the maid thing. I think this is just such a cool way to do this, especially because there's a scene where she like glances up and meets eyes of Fidel Castro. And that's the first time you realize something is wrong with Fidel Castro, because he doesn't react to the fact that a maid robot is not just doing her thing. It's glancing. And I also then we get the guy without a shirt on.
The boxing guy, our first cyber psycho. This dude is inexplicable. I love him. What is going on?
I feel like
Should just be happening. The Yakuza needs a village.
they put him in because somebody on staff was like, we haven't had a fucking cyber pervert fight in like so many episodes. We
It's
got to get
so
this guy in
long.
here.
So
I gotta
good.
say, overall, the fight animation in the show just whips. Every
It's
time there's a fight,
so
This episode
good.
is
Really
this episode is
good.
peak too, because you get the scene where the Major ropes in, which first off, getting Bato to shoot out the glass with the Tachikoma, but they use Tachikomas constantly in this series.
it's really good. We haven't talked about it. Tachikomas are like an all-purpose tool.
Yeah.
You can never not
Like
use
they can
one.
be transport.
But it's on the bottom of their insert helicopter, and Bato's in it, and she gives him shit for having a fear of heights, and then they just fucking drop the Tachikoma from height. Mecha of all time.
The Major's like, time for exposure therapy. Bye.
Anyway, did you guys count the Jardies in this episode? I counted 11 Jardies.
I only counted
How many
7
Jardies did you get? Yeah, I think I was about Alice's 7.
It's hard because there's a sequence where she's walking through a double-sided hallway and you only see one side, so it's hard to tell how many Jardies are on the same side of the hallway as the camera. You know what I mean?
Your Jardies per square foot.
My Jardies
kind
per
of.
square foot.
Yeah, I did troll counting, one too many lots. I didn't keep track.
It's an inversion of reality, right? Because, like, the reason I went to Fidel Castro in this is because the CIA tried so many fucking Looney Tunes ass plans to try to kill Fidel Castro, up to and including poison cigars.
Yeah, I was just going to say poison cigars.
Like, they really wanted to kill his ass. And they couldn't. Like, they just repeatedly were unable to do this, and Fidel Castro became a lasting... Like, in a South America that was divided by COINTELPRO and CIA actions, Operation Condor, you can just Google a bunch of words we say in this episode and learn a lot.
What you have to keep in mind is that the American empire wants to destabilize foreign nation states, but the good guys at Public Security Section 9 want to continually stabilize other foreign nations because of their economic benefits, which is much better morally, I would say. This was a joke.
It's interestingly complex in that way. I'm glad you brought that up.
I do like that they let the operation continue because of the fact that if it doesn't, a foreign state will destabilize.
Yeah.
I also love that they
cool.
use the conceit of, we're just cops. We operate in a very specific kind of crime, and this isn't it. So we don't have to worry anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we'll touch on this again in episode 10 when they intersect with the CIA, literally. So
I'd take an obedient puppet over a hero that fails to live up to expectations any day. So saith the Major at the end of episode 7.
So saith Metal Gear Solid 3.
Major drops lines in this. Let's talk about it. Major just dropping... Look, Bato's philosophy died so the Major could have one-liners. Can we talk about episode 8, which is, how dare you ever go against the Major's wife? She will bring the full weight of Section 9 down on your bitch asses.
So, like, this, I feel like I figure out something new about myself every time I watch this show. And, like, the Major was a huge template for my gender and for my everything. But, man, this episode watched it in 2025 after I'm, like, in a polyamorous relationship. Major, not a very good girlfriend.
No.
Unfortunately, Major's not poly.
Not only does she think about work all the time when she's hanging out with her girls, she only comes visiting her emotional relationships when she needs a favor from them outside of home. And that kind of
sucks. User.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to level with you. I would be the person who's like, damn, this person is so toxic in the polycule and they're kind of shit and not there when we need them. But then she's there and I'm like, I love them so much.
I mean,
would die for the Major.
I mean,
sometimes you just need a person who's hot.
Why did the nurse's outfit let her nip? In this essay about the male gaze of this show.
Apparently, they all have to breastfeed. I don't know.
They're breasting boobily throughout the halls of the hospital. I only have like 4 notes on this episode. It's kind of nothing. I do like that the guy pisses himself at the end. There's piss comedy.
The Major pretends to be a like mafia organ trafficker in a way that is legitimately funny. She's like, you guys are amateurs. I'm going to show you what this actually looks like.
but mecca of it all. Chasing a
Tachikoma
man down
shit,
a tight alleyway, breaking the folded metal and getting stuck, and then leaving your Tachikoma because they're stuck.
And then they're like, we'll come back for you later.
We'll come back.
She's like, okay. But also, okay, we get my favorite Tachikoma scene, which includes a Bato. They're on the roof, and they get the okay. And he pulls the firing pin. And we realize that the little cap on the front of the Tachikomas is a fucking tank cannon this whole time. But there's that smooth movement where he pulls off the cap and he's just like, fucking shoot it. Oh,
yeah.
It's good.
I like that it's like, they're referred to as miniature tanks a lot. But we typically see them doing more like versatile stuff. They are extremely spider coded to the point where they can literally extrude like wires to help them move and like capture things.
Is this an animation thing and it's Spider-Man goo, or is it just a cool way to draw grappling hooks go?
I think it's Spider-Man goo. It legitimately looks like it.
It looks like Spider-Man goo,
Bullet belt goo bazooka. We have the goo tech.
We have the goo tech.
We have the goo tech.
It's the future. Why not have the like whatever fucking polymer Tony Stark shit?
Can we... I want to talk we're a mech podcast. Can we take this as the Tachikoma 5 and describe to the listeners who might not see Ghost in the Shell what a Tachikoma is unique as a mech? So it has the 3 little eyeballs on top that are on different coordinates. It has just kind of, it looks like a 4-legged spider with a like mini fridge tacked on the back where the pilot goes.
Yeah, that's the abdomen of the spider.
Mm-hmm.
But it has the little manipulator arms, and the functionality of the Tachikoma is wild, right? Hey guys, what's your favorite part of the Tachikoma?
Thanks for asking. I was actually going to bring this up earlier. It's the fact that, Bato does the firing pin thing, and then in a couple episodes, a little girl is going to attach her leash to the firing pin, which had my heart doing palpitations for a little while.
That was a really good payoff to like knowing what that does. You're like,
we go alphabetically. Iris, what's your favorite part of the Tachikoma?
I I like a lot of things, but I think the best is when somebody is riding inside of one and they open up the hatch just a little bit, so they're peeking out of it, and it looks. You just see like a little face peeking out of the little back of the spider. That is the cutest thing.
The funniest part in episode 2 is when Major talks to the cops only by doing that. So she's like, "Hi, we're taking over this case."
I'm not getting out of the car for you people.
I'm rolling the window down, basically. This is, I just want to say, I do like, something we know from the manga is that Masamune Shirao really likes insect robots, and without getting into, like, the ick of it, and, like, having a lot of small ones, like, the tank in the first one, the multi-ped tank, is a scorpion, very clearly. And, like, the Tachikomas are spiders. I like that that's a theming throughout.
Yeah, that's it. I just thought we should talk. Oh, so they have wheels, but they generally just walk, which is very cute. That's it. I love them. They're adorable.
This ties in with my comment about how Bato should be sluttier, which is that, like, I really wish there were more not between this and the tank. It really is surprising that at this point, non-standard human body shapes are still a wild novelty. I would have loved to see at least a few more kind of sprinkled around where it didn't have anything to do with the plot. This person is just kind of in, like, I don't know, like a centaur body, or like a hovering sphere or something. I don't know. It's a transhumanist sort of aspect.
Yeah. Like, why do we have to follow? Why did we make them and they have to look like us, you know? But yeah, so they talk about organ trafficking. They talk about what happens to the body after you get cyberized. I think it's interesting if you're interested in this kind of stuff. It's a pretty interesting little episode, but it is light on the kind of stuff we're interested in.
It's a good, like, if you watch one episode of SAC, this is a good standalone one to watch.
It's a decent one, yeah. Moving on to episode 10, Fuck the CIA. The Section 9 literally has to work with 2 CIA guys. My first note is that they somehow managed to make Japanese guys who are from America look distinct from Japanese guys who are in Section 9.
These guys are so creepy.
They look creepier. They still look Japanese. Everyone has, like, the right facial features, but they're drawn in a way that makes them look fake American.
Yeah, they gave him,
in, like, a really creepy way.
They gave him the extra American guy wrinkles.
Yeah, it's a really subtle touch, but it's really cool. Like, on site, you can tell who the CIA guys are. But yeah, so the CIA is here because there's a guy doing serial killings in Japan suddenly. That matched the MO of something that previously was only perpetrated in South America. Hey, Operation Condor was the real one. Let's get into Operation, was it Sunrise or Sunset?
Sunset.
I was so wrong.
Oh, it's Sunset. Okay. Operation Sunset. Which was a terror campaign. It was literally having operators go into South America and perpetrate unimaginable war crimes against the civilian populace, specifically women and children, to demoralize and destabilize, like, guerrilla forces and national spirit in these countries where the American empire did not want there to be a national spirit. This is where we get our first substantial discussions of World Wars 3 and 4, which have already taken place.
And Bato's backstory, which we'll get some more of later.
So one thing that they do that's really cool in SAC that we don't get in the movies is the backstory of each of the members of Section 9. And I think that they're each just neat little bottle episodes.
Mm-hmm. And this is Bato's fun trauma excursion. Bato's tormentous nightmare. Because Bato saw this guy at work in South America when he was
he
serving.
stumbled on them doing this operation, basically.
On them doing this operation, which specifically is the guy flays people alive in the shape of a t-shirt, which is like a little detail that just makes it, like, even more horrific in a specific way. It feels like focus tested horror. Like, oh, flaying people alive already sucks, but what if it was in the shape of an iconic garment?
This episode got a special, like, hey, this one's really fucked up message. If you watched this originally on Toonami, you know what I'm talking about. This was, like, kind of a hot button.
Also, I believe in Canada, it didn't air until later. Like, they just didn't run this one, and then later, I guess they got different sign-offs, or they got those, like, little, you know, viewer discretion advised things to put in. But it didn't air for a while. It aired later. Yeah, and so this guy's running around Japan doing his job, doing what he was trained to do, and Bato is convinced that the only way to stop this is to kill this guy. Yeah. And so the major tasks Togusa with keeping Bato from doing that. And come to find out, the CIA, part of the reason he's here and this is happening It's really good. It's classic. If you know anything about the Dulles brothers, the history of the CIA, American Actions Anywhere, they are trying to get rid of this guy, but they don't want to have to do it. So they specifically have files on Bato. They are putting this guy in Bato's proximity so Bato will cap him. And so that he can't be like prosecuted and this can't be investigated. And
Is
like
the CIA bad?
this episode is really
The CIA might be
There's
bad.
no way to know. There's no way to know.
The mecca of it all, and this is kind of gross to talk about, but using the optical sensor overlay to record the murders through his own eyes, but make them watch.
And then later,
Yeah.
is
he makes his victims watch him do it.
But like,
And
it
then
speaks to the evil you
later
can do with
he
the tech.
disseminates. Yeah, later he disseminates recordings from their perspective as well, because he captured that as well.
It's funny. I had a note that said like, I feel like the selling sensory recordings of serial killings thing in Cyberpunk 2077 ripped this off. But even there, they toned it down from this.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
That is really wild.
The fact that this
If you
aired
think
on
about-
TV is fucked to me.
Yeah.
Well, I think about that when I rewatch Hannibal sometimes. It's like, oh, this was an NBC joint. This was an HBO. Sometimes shit just happens.
I there's a character moment I really like, which is when Kusanagi just straight up cuffs one of the CIA guys once they figure out what they're up to. And the CIA guy says, like, I actually haven't done anything. Like, this is super illegal. This is a moment where I think Kusanagi really, really trusts Bato. Because if Bato had killed that guy, this could have been liquidate Section 9 level bad, because Kusanagi illegally arrested somebody and they fucked up the operation. So I thought that was a cool touch. I love angry Kusanagi. I love angry Aramaki too. Aramaki spins around in his little chair and is like, "You're a son of a bitch."
It's really good. I do like, this is a show that despite the many things it questions, it does still have faith in international law to a certain extent. Like you said, Brian, like Section 9 operates to stabilize nations in a specific way. Or maybe it was Iris anyway. Yeah, but like economically, it has interests internationally in a way that means they are more invested in stability than in instability. And like,
When you look at the state of Newport City, Tokyo, like it's a new city that's built in the ruins of an old city. It seems like the nation of Japan is at a very fragile time in their history during the events of Ghost in the Shell. So keeping international balance would be a lot more in their favor than a country like the American Empire, who seems willing just to bomb anyone to shit indiscriminately.
it's
fun.
better to have unstable client states than it is to have trading partners.
And
for
especially
America,
as we get
right?
into
Like,
second gig, we talk more about the how Japan is trying to stabilize the region around them in a post-World War III world. By the way, we learned in this one that World War III happened.
World War III and 4. So we're on the next one would be 5.
Also, there were nukes, but we'll get to that later. But I think
The
that's
war's so
really
nice, they did it twice.
And then again, also 2 more times.
Yeah, this is really interesting because I think it like I said, they have a lot of faith in the international justice system to the point where Bato specifically spares the guy, not out of like, I'm a hero and this is what a hero would do, which is I think where this trope gets deployed a lot, but because I mean, and this is especially impactful in a world where, like, if you can pull cyberbrain data, you can pull firsthand data of atrocities. Like, this man is a gold mine in terms of actually prosecuting war crimes that were committed during this conflict. So we can move on to, like I said, skipping back a little bit, episodes 9 and 11. Never forget.
Never forget. A second standalone complexes hit the towers.
These are complex episodes again. So we're returning to the Laughing Man.
Yeah, they are.
All right, episode 9, Kusanagi pursues the Laughing Man into VR chat.
This is one of the best episodes of any anime ever made. I swear to
Forum
God.
posting in the future.
Let's all admit it. This is the one that makes this.
We have so many awesome guests, voice actors too. Steve Bloom is in this. Johnny Young Bosch is in this. Like, I was so surprised. I love Steve Bloom's character. Like, what if Tony Soprano was extremely timid all the time?
Yo, these are avatars. These are avatars they
I
control.
know, yeah.
He chose to look like the most sweatiest, pathetic guy.
It's really good. I'm really interested in talking about that. To briefly gloss 11, this is about a syndrome called cyberbrain closed shell syndrome, which kind of, I mean, I will defer to the experts. This reads like, how do we monetize autism, the episode?
How do we monetize posters?
And this is about, and it's also about the abuse of a social welfare apparatus. So that's kind of 9 and 11. But let's circle back to 9 in the VR chat.
Hey, Iris, what's that? What's the Major's VR chat avatar?
I'm glad you asked, Alice. It is Chroma, her alter ego from the later Ghost in the Shell comics.
No, that's Sharon Apple. What are you talking about?
It's incredibly fucking funny. I think this is where you could actually get into the argument about the Major loves breasting boobily, because her body IRL is already doing that. Her avatar is doing that to the extreme. The waist is snatched. The tits are huge. The dress is vacuum formed.
No, that's like recognizes like. I see what she's doing, and I'm like, you too, huh? You two are like this.
Everyone else in the chat room is like, what if I was just like somebody different? And she's like, no, I want to be in the Outlaw Star opening sequence. That's the character that I am in this chat room.
It reminded me a little bit of two things. One, Snow Crash. I think we have to bring in Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash. The iconic, like, when you exist in a virtual space, how cool can you be kind of book. But also it reminded me of Second Life, where like if you're getting started in Second Life, you can do all sorts of crazy shit to clothing proportions, and you can buy all sorts of cosmetics if you're going to put money into it and stuff. But a lot of the people who are like lifestyle Second Life users have like somewhat, you have a disclosure to make.
Just be careful about what you're saying.
It's harder to make stuff look realistic, especially in Second Life, than it is to make stuff look fantastic. Second Life has been a massive influence on my series Crossed Wires and just on how I think about interacting online as a whole. So like and the wild thing too is that like Second Life in recent years, they've never stopped working on it. And recently they have got it looking so good. My friend Pharaoh was doing was checking out a sim recently that was a trailer park in the middle of like kind of a rural southwestern area, and they look like photos with how like the rust on the sides of the trailers, the lighting grading. It's the devil is in the details for these people.
Mm-hmm. And that's where I feel like we see another woman in this who has a personality. I had the vapors. No, but like there's a woman in this panel discussion basically that's happening. And I love how they represent people posting in the forums versus lurkers. I think it's incredibly fucking funny. The people at the table are posting. The people in the bleachers are lurking.
But each of them has their own commentators. They all have their own Twitch chat replying to their posts. They have like
Twitch chats, which are very good. It's very good. But all of them have like a different look. Like Brian said, like we have really timid Tony Soprano guy. We also have like the woman who's there who's wearing like a very mundane kind of like almost an academic look. But there's a lot of layers to the outfit and the glasses and stuff. And there's one guy who's like too smooth. There's one guy who's in a Laughing Man cosplay that they have to make him take the logo off.
That's the Johnny Young Bosch character. He's like an impetuous little asshole. I am obsessed with him.
He would be wearing the V for Vendetta mask 100% in RAU.
Don't you think the Laughing Man is kind of poggers, guys?
So I do want to talk about what, from a narrative perspective, what this episode does. Because you think of the modern anime audience, this is airing weekly, right? People are trying to follow it. And somebody who's watching this, like, have they taken the time before this episode to really think about the Laughing Man? Or do they still think, oh, it's just one guy and we've got to find the criminal? And what this episode does is it takes it back. And I really love when the Major says, was it cool what he did? And they sit back, and when you actually look at what he did, it was in a moment of panic. It was in a moment of fear. He was not cool in what he did, but what he did was poggers.
No, he was like clearly having a fucking moment.
And I just like how they don't get to a good answer on it. Like, they can't get quorum on this. Well, she finds the Laughing Man, but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But I think it's the copycats with no original. This is where that line comes in, which is just such a good, like, commentary on what the Laughing Man and a standalone complex is. It's just such a good episode.
But I think, so something interesting here, she definitely feels like the Tony Soprano guy has more accurate theories than, like, say, young hoodie Johnny Young Bosch guy. So she actually pulls him aside into a separate, like, non-rendered space for, like, a brief interrogation and discussion, and then, like, hey, I'm warning you, if you keep following this, your real body may be killed. Like, this isn't just posting, man. If you die in the posting, you die in real life. Like... And then she has a moment with the Too Slick guy who, like, the more you look at his face, the more you're like, this guy is laughing. He's not laughing, but he has the facial expression of someone who is caught mid-laugh.
Tilting up in that way that we've seen in Pat Labor 2. You know, the forehead camera.
Oh no. We're having a Goto moment. And then it turns out that, like, she says something that grabs his attention and he's like, oh, great theory. And then he, like, pulls her out of this situation. And that's when the Major gets a glimpse of what seems to be the real laughing man behind all this stuff. It's a cool-ass episode. I think it's an episode that was really prescient about online culture.
I do. I also think it's really funny how then the whole time it turns out the Major had been driving Bato somewhere the entire time she was in VR chat. And he was like, were you seriously just driving and chatting right now?
Fucking
it's so good because Bato's like, I was just talking to you about something. Like, Bato had a different episode while this was happening. And he thought the Major was just silently being receptive and, like, hearing him.
Don't Second Life and drive, kids.
Do not do this, kids.
Me with my VR chat headset while I'm driving my boyfriend.
So Cyberbrain Closed Shell Syndrome, episode 11.
I'm so glad you read chapter 2 of the manga. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Okay, so this episode is very interested, one, in... what does cyberization mean in terms of, can it cause disability or can it change how we interact with society to the point that it is debilitating? And also, if you have a whole bunch of vulnerable people who cannot support themselves, can you exploit them as a labor force? The poorhouses of the 19th century are calling.
Hey, Iris, are you, just to make sure, when you came to this podcast, you're operating in autistic mode, right?
I'm always operating in autistic mode. It's funny because if I was talking about this episode with a friend of mine and she was like, yeah, that was a really, like, I think that was a really offensive term to use back in the day. I really think they should have used a different term. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I get it. I don't know. Do you think they shouldn't have called it that? Or?
It's a technological term. Like,
it's a tech term,
it's
right?
It's just a computer term. It's like calling it a master drive and a slave drive. That's just the tech term. It has no intonation to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, words don't have any connotations. No, I think it's interesting that, like, I think our understanding of autism, not just as, like, a neurological condition, but also, like, as real human people who have autism, has developed a lot since this time period. I think this was a reflection of the fact that, like, in the early 2000s, like, it was not in a great place, but I think there was a general early 2000s interest in, like, sequencing the genome, cloning, and, like, actually understanding the neurological roots of autism. So I could see how this is kind of a rip from the headlines kind of, this is how we think this works, I'm going to apply it to computers, and it has a connotation in that specific area.
I was going to say, even then, you can see that they've come a long way in 2002 from Zeta Gundam in 1987 with Camille saying that he's just a maladjusted autistic teenager. And just using it as a watchword for a kid who doesn't fit in with society very well.
Listen, maladjusted autistic teenagers are out here thriving. Many of them are my friends.
To talk about the mech of this episode, we have what if Atom Smasher was designed by Steve Jobs?
Yeah, we literally do.
They took the power armor suit from chapter 2 of the manga, and they were like, what if this wasn't the stupidest shit in the world? And it rips, but also... Smash me, Adam. Did you get a lot of innocence in this episode, by the way? When he arrives and it's kind of deathly empty, the rooms are haunted and everything doesn't really fit. Like, the fact that the twist at the end of the episode is Togusa's been hacked the entire time is pretty great.
Yeah. I was going to say the bit that made me immediately go, oh, this is the most Oshi of all of the episodes you've seen so far. It's like, Togusa enters this, like, deserted reception hallway, and etched into the roof of this facility out in the sticks is an enormous fat-titted angel lady rendered in immaculate CGI, the greatest number of polygons they could manage back in the day. It is so weird that they just put that in for whatever reason.
I had to call my harem over to see this. I was like, I have to show you something because you love Oshi. And I showed it and I was like, this isn't a welfare center for autistic children. Do you think this is appropriate?
Appropriate? I love you so much. Anyway.
Do we think that it's appropriate?
Yeah. I really liked your note, Iris, that this is the most explicitly Oshi flavored episode. Like, it is really contemplative.
The director of the facility also in her office has a whole bunch of like art of like sunflowers and statues and stuff. And that's like the only decoration you see anywhere in this facility.
And it's all concentrated in that room. Like, everywhere else is very utilitarian. It's giving psych ward vibes. Like, it's giving like daycare center. It's giving elder home. It is all of those like sanitized, no bump surfaces kind of areas, except there are two things going on. Like you said, the culture is all concentrated in the hands of power. Like, there is a real feeling of wealth and ostentation that is not provided to the people who live and work here. It is concentrated in the controlling interests.
Something they do really cool with this too is in a cinematic framing way. Like, there is an assumption other people work here. We only ever see the director, Adam Smasher, and Togusa, and the children.
Well, and a couple of orderlies. There are 2 orderlies, yeah. But, like, this is also, like I said, I bring up poorhouses very specifically because there was a feeling, especially in the 19th and early 20th centuries in the West, that if people could not function in society, they had to produce value somehow. We can't just support and care for people because they're people. That'd be fucked up. What are you, a liberal? What are you, some kind of Democrat? But also, like, they were doing piecework. They were doing sewing. They were doing simple tasks that now that kind of thing is outsourced to, like, third world and developing countries. Like, that used to be the use of the poor and the mentally ill and stuff like that. So
the most advanced cases at this facility are basically being put to work assembling and deassembling, like, security barriers for networks, right?
Rubik's Cubes for profit.
I think that the director lady has, like, an off comment about how, like, you know, they would be doing this anyway. And it's like, oh, I wonder how long it took you. I wonder how many options you went through before you decided to just put them to work anyway. Like,
no, we're the good guys because we pull them out of their work cycle and feed them.
Yeah, we make them take breaks and we make them like but every time you're seeing people, especially later on, we see more like elders and like adult people. But initially we're seeing a lot of children or like young teens. And that's like, we made our little like misfit crew. Togusa is put in charge of like this group of like 5 people, and like one is this artist girl who, you know, is always sketching but never painting, and one is this kind of belligerent kid who's like very interested, like Alice said, in the Zero City video game. One of them just like stands and looks at a wall, like that guy's just there. But the main guy that we're looking at is a boy named Aoi, who sits in a wheelchair and holds onto a baseball glove and
the thing is we're not really looking at him. Like, the episode goes to great lengths to just have him as an object. And it goes into the Catcher in the Rye quote. And we get my favorite Laughing Man moment in the entire series, which is we find where they've been dialing out. Because the center is separate from the net because we can't let them. And so whoever the Laughing Man is has been going into this panel in the back that Togusa finds because it's the only way he can connect out. And the same Catcher in the Rye quote, I thought what I do, I pretend I was one of those deaf mutes. And then right under it is written, which isn't in the quote, or should I? And I think that that's such a good, like, we learn who the Laughing Man is. Hey guys, we meet the Laughing Man.
Yeah, there's like an alter ego thing happening here where the kids keep alluding to someone called the Chief, and Togusa is trying to find the Chief because Togusa intuits that like this person is important. And come to find out, the Chief is Aoi if he just stands up out of the wheelchair and like acts normal. Like, Aoi seems to be a character that he was performing to kind of throw Togusa off the scent.
Didn't they say that the catcher's mitt is specifically a...
Lefty's catcher mitt.
Yeah, lefty's catcher mitt, which is, in the show, they refer to it as slang for something that doesn't actually exist or is hard to find. Basically, this kid is carrying around, like, The equivalent of a hydrodynamic spatula with port and starboard attachments, and let's not forget the turbo drive.
Oh, you won't believe what Lay's spatula is capable of.
But like, it's
as a symbol
for who he is, which is a person who isn't actually here, who isn't actually kind of existing. Even his name, Aoi, means blue in Japanese.
Yeah, it's just blue.
Yeah.
It's really good. Like, there's a lot going on here. And then with the final reveal, like, there's a fight where Togusa gets his shit rocked by Atom Smasher, and then
he uses American Power gun.
No, the director lady uses her American Power easel and just brains his ass.
But it's a bat sting, which is in the theme.
Yeah, and then come to find out that actually Togusa's been hacked since like the moment he got in here. The Section 9 couldn't perceive it until they get into the facility, and the things that we have been shown on screen, like Togusa getting brained with an easel and like bleeding out, it looks like he's just bleeding out on the floor. No, he's collapsed on the floor. He's collapsed on the floor next to a marble statue, which is what he shot.
Exactly. I was about to say that's another blink and you miss a detail that I really love, which is that Togusa gets a bunch of shots off on Atom Smasher, and then you find out that he's collapsed next to a statue that has the same shots in its abdomen.
I like it because my first thought is there ain't no way a revolver could punch through that hardened armor, so this makes no sense. And then, oh, it's a statue. Okay.
Yeah, like, there's so much that we're left to question about, like, it's a bad phrase, especially to deploy here, but like, is the asylum run by the lunatics? Like, yeah, is this facility that was for the exploitation of these people, in fact, something that they control because they have a more sophisticated understanding of how any of this works than the people who are put in charge of them nominally?
I want to talk about a theory I have, and I'm sure I'm not the only one with a theory, but I want to know your guys' opinion. So in the room that Togusa is warding over, there's 5 people, right? One of which is the laughing boy. When we are in the cyberspace discussion room, I believe these are all of the people in that room. We know for sure that the main guy running the moderation is the kid who says, "Today is my day, I'm going online." Because we get him in the cutaway where he's being pulled offline in the ward. That's when she gets like pulled after, and the laughing man is like, "Nope, you can't come in here and chase us because I control the entire net of the ward." Because I mean, the implication is that's his what Peter Pan-esque kingdom in the ward. Like, he's been running it, and now the cops are sniffing. He's like, I just want to be off grid after what I did. Right? That's the implication. But I think like the girl is obviously the girl. The sweaty soprano guy is the tall guy.
Yeah, who like faces the wall.
And the kind of sketchy kid is the one who's like the main guy he interacts with. I think that's the guy wearing the laughing man
punk
mask. Yeah. So I think that's my
an interesting
theory. Is
theory.
that they are helping to propagate the mythos of the laughing man as part of. I think these autistic kids have a great plan, is what I'm saying. But that's my theory. What are your thoughts?
I think that's interesting, even if it's not true.
Yeah, that's
like,
really
the
wild.
fact that lines up is an interesting bit of symmetry.
Well, you can be yourself online.
If it's not
all of
true.
these kids are very much kids who want to exist in the net. And it's kind of spoken to that of like, they don't really exist in real life. They don't know how to be in this human world. They forget to eat. But like online, they're well-spoken, they're competent, they're on top of things.
That's interesting. Like I said, if it's true, it's compelling. If it's not true, like if that was just a coincidence, it's a really fascinating bit of rhyming. It's a really fascinating bit of congruence.
Because if it's true, then like how much other kind of efforts to manufacture the meme has the Laughing Man been using his Lost Boys, to follow the Peter Pan metaphor, to do? How much of that was orchestrated and how much of that was just releasing it into the wild?
Well, it also goes into the narrative being that the Laughing Man did his thing and he's done. And everything that follows from it is just repeating that. It's people building up this mythos. And I like the idea of like, I just want to be a deaf mute in a chair. And these other kids are like, hey, what if everyone did the shit the Laughing Man did?
Let's move on to part 5, which is the last standalone episode. So these are 12 and 13. Tachikoma's Big Day Out and an exploration of a filmmaker's cyberbrain, and Metal Gear Section 9 and exploring the terrorist opposition to cyberization.
I love the Tachikoma Day Off. That's it. That's mexed me. Okay. Hey, something that they do cool in this show No one ever acknowledges that these mini tanks are just rolling around. It's just normal to have these on the street.
I think that's a very, like we've discussed before, like almost like our view of like Japanese cultural mores. I think that it's a very Japanese cultural more to see a mini tank scooting through the city. And like, if it's not breaking traffic regulations, like why would you involve yourself? Like, just, like, it's fine. Like, just, it probably should be there. There's probably a reason for it. I'm gonna keep going about my day. Like, it's very good.
I love the Patty Hearst note, by the way. I was thinking about that the whole time I watched this episode this time.
Yes.
Yeah, but so a Tachikoma, I love the explanation they give for this later, but a Tachikoma, who we come to find out it's funny. I think it's funny. I don't think it's true.
Okay.
But the Tachikoma, Bato, like in the comics, Bato exclusively uses like one Tachikoma that he spoils. So it's like, that's his baby, is this one Tachikoma. And it wakes up alone. Everybody else is deactivated. And it's like, I guess I'm going to go gather information. No one can stop me from going outside to gather information. I'm going to go have fun. And it heads out on the town, and it happens to run into a little girl who's looking for her dog. And so it has an adventure. Like,
also, it cries. Can we talk about the oil crying?
There are moments where the Tachikoma behaves very robotically, and there are moments where the Tachikoma makes inferences, and the mix of the two is really compelling.
Yeah, so we should talk about when it assumes Chief Aramaki's voice and pretends to be a war veteran who's decided to become a tank. It's so good.
It's so good. So yeah, they're walking around looking for her dog ostensibly, and she has him cut through a part of town which I hope this child has never gone alone to this part of town. There's very visible in some of the shots of this alleyway they walk down that there are just wrapped rifles and shit. Like, this is like the black market alley in this city. And she's like, yeah, let's take a shortcut to the park through this black market alley. And so cops approach them. First of all, the Tachikoma has been briefly distracted because in the pile of illegal black market goods that are just out, it spots a cyber brain. And it's like, whoa, a cyber brain. And it picks it up and connects to it and finds that it has no attack barrier, which is what all people with the cyber brain are supposed to have. That's your Norton antivirus, right? Like, that's just your standard. You're supposed to have something to protect yourself. This brain doesn't have that. And it connects, and we get a really, like, stylized sequence of the Tachikoma having an experience that seems to suggest an awareness of self. Because there's a ghost in the cyber brain.
Did you see that? So, like, the Tachikoma is a neuron, and then all of the other neurons are people holding hands.
It was really
blink and you miss it moments in this fucking show. Holy shit.
It's really good. And so the Tachikoma was distracted by that. While it was distracted, the cops walked up listen, when you're in Black Market Alley, you don't need to worry about any of the black market goods. That's the economy. It's good for everybody. Why is there a child here?
Real questions.
What you need to do.
What is the sassy child doing here?
She's doing a whole thing. I love how she explains what's going on via analog, and then it like literally 5 seconds later explains it again, but just literally this time.
It's really good. She's clearly like, there's a thing children will do amongst themselves when one of them understands something that other children don't, which is they will attempt to teach in the mode that they've seen teachers teach. Like, I've seen a lot of little kids do this. Like, they'll encounter a bug, and like 4 out of 5 children will not know what this bug is, but the 5th child will know and be like, oh, this is this kind of bug, and it flies like this, and it eats this. And the knowledge may not even be accurate, but like there is a desire to like explain something, even when you're really young and you technically don't really know much about the world. And I love that we see this from this little girl who has encountered this Tachikoma who can speak and can clearly do unexpected things, like take on Aramaki's voice and lie to the cops, which always take on Aramaki's voice. Okay, first of all, don't talk to cops, but if you must talk to cops, put on Chief Aramaki's voice and pretend to be a war veteran.
Be William. If you're going to talk to cops, you should be William Knight and no one else.
The other thing I love in this, so this is chapter 4 of the manga done better, but the Major gets into a separate body to watch this happen because she is observing this, and I love that.
The Major's teenage mode. I actually really liked this like teenage representation of the Major.
My harem pointed out that when the Major comes back in the middle section of this film, she's obviously like just getting back into her body and knows everything that's going on. And something that I love is the Major is always on top of everything. And so she comes in and she says, no more natural oil. it fucks with them.
I really love. So yeah, they do this whole thing, and there's this really great moment where the child explains to the Tachikoma about this Japanese story, which this is an extremely fucking Japanese story. This was wild. Like, I think the norm in Western media is like, we don't teach children about death until there's no other choice. Like, until their pet dies, death might as well not exist to children. But in this story, the child understands death and is trying to shield her parents from, like, trying to parent. Is trying to pretend to be more mature than she is as a child by pretending to be childish. It's like these layers of obfuscation so that you don't express vulnerability in this weird way. But knowledge of death is just taken as, like, said in a way that, like, was interesting to me because our cultural perspective is so death phobic, you know, in that kind of way. But yeah, so she explains this story to the Tachikoma as a way of framing the reality of her situation, which is that her dog died, like, 2 days before the weekend, like on a Wednesday. She knew that her dog died, but when she came home, her parents tried to give her... They didn't say your dog went to a farm upstate. They said your dog ran away, which to me is crueler because that does introduce the possibility that your dog is just lost. Like,
hey, why did the dog...
You get no closure.
Why did the dog have a Christian grave?
That was funny. I don't know. Dog has become Christian.
They shelled out for a headstone and everything? Wow.
There's not a lot of room in Japan.
Don't
What's
they have
up?
family graves?
If I was this little girl, I simply would have stabbed my father, like in Tokyo Godfathers.
That's real. That's real. Oil leaks. Oil is leaking, and we as humans interpret human emotions on robots. That is just a leak that looks like a cry. And I think that that's a great visual little motif.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because then, like you said, what we find out later, they get the Tachikoma back. The kid, you know, goes back to her parents. They're like, listen, it's not actually sentient. Don't worry. This one's not an individual. It's just, Bato, you kept giving it olive oil instead of real synthetic oil. No, okay. He kept giving it natural oil instead of synthetic oil as lubricant. And they're like, it got into the cyber brain and it caused like neuron decay in there. So it started acting erratically.
Hey, Iris, quick question for you.
Hi.
Have you ever put your wonderful webcomic that everybody should read into a brain case with no attack barrier and forced people to be caught by it?
I mean, what is a webcomic posted for free online but that, in fact? I'm inviting you into
Happy
my mind.
Homestuck Day, as of recording this.
Happy Homestuck Day to all.
I gotta go, bye.
A true wretched thing that invites you in and traps you there for years.
What are your thoughts on this weird side plot, though?
Oh.
Yeah, because they've recovered the cyber brain.
Yeah, so they recovered the cyber brain. Inside the cyber brain basically is a film director who could never get any of his films made, so instead he just imagined a film really, really good and then put himself into a box and then made copies of the box. And then when you plug into the box, you watch his movie and then you never want to leave the box because the movie is so good. He infinite jested himself, basically. I think that the story, this is framed as kind of like really like bittersweet and poignant and weird. Personally, as like, I feel like my relationship to this specific little 15-minute chunk of show has changed so much over the years that I have grown as an artist. When I was first starting out, I was like, hell yeah, man. That's so cool. That's such a way to do it. This guy knows what's
Art
up.
house film. It's the only way you can interpret it is by watching it in a box in a back alley.
And it's so funny because the detail that we're given about why he does it this way is because he could never get the production to be exactly the way he wanted.
No, yeah, he was a control freak. And like nowadays, in
now
2025,
like, oh, he would have been a nightmare to fucking work with.
he would have been so bullshit because he would have been impossible to work with. He never got anything made because he wasn't able to like fund it or get it to his exact specifications. And also like from a more like personal, metaphysical sort of sense, I feel like art inherently is a conversation from between the interior and the exterior, between what's going on inside of your heads and the world that exists around you. And true art, even in film is an extremely collaborative art form, even in something as more solo as, writing or drawing comics, you still need an amount of feedback. You still need to get other people's eyes on it and to get other opinions, outside viewpoints, to make sure that it does congeal and work as a statement.
And I think as a visual artist, you could agree, because I used to draw a lot. Now I mostly write, but there's a concession you have to make between the perfection of what you imagine and what you are able to render with your hand. It motivates you to keep working on it, but also like it's never going to be as perfect as it is in your head. And that's okay, because it needs to leave your head to be experienced.
Yeah, exactly. And also during that long journey between your brain and your hand, and then from your hand to the page where the reader's eye sees it, so much extra chaos and extra variables can be introduced into that can change and modify the work that then backwashes into how you think about it. Like, it is an active conversation. So the idea of a guy is just like, okay, I'm just going to think really hard and get the perfect art out, and then everybody who's going to see it is going to think it's so freaking good. It's like, well, that's not art. That's just...
Yeah, and I mean, the Major says this too, which I think the conversation that they have is really, really good. It's full of really, really good lines. She basically says, dreams are meaningful because you work towards them. If you just live in them, you're basically already dead. You have to, when you make something, you have to understand that part of the process of making it is allowing outside factors to change the context and the parameters by which you're doing the thing. That's something that I think anime Stanley Kubrick here might have missed in his education. I just also think that the idea that art suspends people in motion and traps them is just an incredibly cool concept. People should read Diary by Chuck Palahniuk, which is about this. It's incredibly good. It's one of the greatest novels ever written, I think. But yeah.
But I also think he doesn't actually create art until the Major sees it and emerges. Because the Major experiences the film. She cries, which we've never seen her do before. And then she exits, and what we see after her conversations with the director and after everything, she's getting a coffee. She's sitting down. She's not just having crappy station coffee. She went and got a coffee somewhere. And she's sitting down, and she's clearly reflecting on her experience. And Bato stops by and tries to ask her out in a very funny way that, number one, woman respect her, asks her out, wants to see a movie, learns about, her feelings about movies, and then is like, well, that makes sense. See ya. Amen, brother. That's exactly how you do it.
I love that character note for Kusanagi, though, that she likes to watch movies alone. I think that's
if it's a movie she wants to see it alone. I love this Cinema Enjoyer 101. Also...
Yeah, and she doesn't go see movies she thinks are mediocre. She's just not going to take a risk in that way,
Shout out to As She's Diving. They're like, I think it's really freaky you don't close your eyes when you do this. That's it. I really like that.
I like that a lot. It's a really good detail. Why would she need to?
Do you think she closes her eyes when she makes out? Because I think if she doesn't close her eyes when she dives, she doesn't close her eyes when she makes out.
Oh, she absolutely be staring at your closed eyelids.
I have a hot take. I don't think Kusanagi kisses people. I think she I think they do the wire thing, and that's it. I don't think she sees her physical form as a sex thing. I think it's all in the net.
She's plugging into the USB. She's doing Kiss too.
As Gibson would say, jacking straight across.
If she did actually kiss, it would be with an A2 loadout with hypervelocity rounds and tongue darting into that mouth. In this essay,
the Major's loadout.
She turns on the optic camo as she leans in to kiss you.
Yeah, that way you never know if her eyes are open or closed. But yeah, I was not kidding when I said Metal Gear Section 9. We are suited up. We are inserting through water. There's a submarine.
I love the gear. I love the tiny sub. I love Bato's cyber burrito that Togusa says looks disgusting, but I want to eat it so bad. I'm different.
I want to eat his weird lumpy burrito.
I wanted to eat the purple rectangle in Crimes of the Future, and I want to eat this burrito.
Yeah.
All I could think was that it tasted like melon pon because it looked like that kind of crispy outer. And I know it doesn't. I know it's just a nutritionally dense.
Yeah, I want it to
thing,
be astronaut ice cream with Reese's Puffs stuck in it. And I would eat the hell out of that.
I would eat the hell out of that too. Absolutely.
But so Section 9 is following up on a kidnapping which happened 16 years ago. A daughter of one of the people who was doing cyberization for the first time. She was cyberized. So she had the prototype implant. And she was kidnapped by an anti-cyberization terrorist group. And she has been missing for 16 years. Like, they had, like, last recorded footage of her or whatever. She suddenly turned up again, but the problem is she looks exactly like she did 16 years ago. So Section 9 inserts onto an old nuclear scrubbing facility
Big Shell?
for removing, I guess. Yeah, Big Shell. They insert onto Big Shell to find out what's going on with this immortal child.
So one thing I love, so it's a trading port for all the salvage people around. So they're just walking through this market in paramilitary gear. Gun nuts will know that they have the wraps on their guns because of the sweltering heat. And I just love it. It's great.
Is that like
they look like mercs?
do you got to keep guns cold or they like melt or something, or what is it with like?
Yeah, the expansion of the barrels can cause the grouping to be bad. So you basically just throw a wrap on it to keep it from getting direct sunlight on the black metal. Also, so it doesn't burn your hands.
Wild.
But you're a
all right,
cyborg.
I learned
sense.
something today.
I love the conversation that Togusa and the Major have while they're on the Tachikoma, which is an elevator in this episode.
Oh my god. So
It's good. It's good. They're having a conversation about like how this girl could look the same and how like it's unlikely she's in a cyber body because she's with the terrorists that don't believe in that. It's interesting to me that it does not factor into their calculations that this could be genetic. And I think it's interesting because you wouldn't default to that in a society where your appearance is largely up to you. And I just think that's really, really interesting. Like, I don't know if maybe the dialogue didn't go there because they wanted that to be the fun twist at the end, or if the dialogue didn't go there because they wanted this to be a character moment of like what their assumptions would be.
They forgot that you can make people by having sex and do baby.
I think it's so Section 9.
I don't think you can. I think it's just cloning.
I think it's so Section 9 because even Togusa, a person with wife and children, does not have that consideration because, I mean, like, it doesn't make sense, right? That it's got to be cloning, right, guys?
I think it also, something this episode is very interested in is experiences that are so repellent they can't even be contemplated. Because the suggestion here, if the original girl had a child, the suggestion here on the optimistic side is that she had a whirlwind romance with one of her kidnappers. The unoptimistic suggestion is that she was raped and she had a child. And the implication that we get, like when they find, because there was an initial extraction team, the Texas Air Force was sent in. All I can think about was Gunhead during this. Anyway, the Texas Air Rangers were sent in, and unfortunately only one of them is still showing up as online. When they find this guy, he is catatonic, basically. And he's trying to commit suicide. And he keeps pleading with Bato to erase it. And what they realize later is that he wants them to erase memories. And what they surmise is that he connected directly to the cyber brain of the girl, the original kidnappee, and experienced everything that she's experienced in 16 years of being in the hands of this terrorist group.
Well, we'll get into this in the second half, but it's not just that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, huh.
So put that in your pocket, Niko, for the second half of SAC.
Okay.
I'm putting it in my pocket too. I don't remember this.
Anyway, Dudes rock, best fucking shootout in the fucking series. The Tachikoma with the minigun. Fuck!
Yeah!
They're just like, Tachikoma lay down fire, and minigun spit, it's where the cannon is, just fucking gunning down. And they're shooting cannons into walls, they're blowing shit up. Tachikoma's rock.
Also,
Tachikoma's rock.
As resident gun nut, I have to ask. I'm not a gun nut, so I need to know.
They go bang, bang, bang. Just like that one lady said, bang, but sexily.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that bit where Togusa is firing the full assault rifle around the corner and he has his arm like this and it looks like the worst possible shit ever. Is that real?
So, as my harem pointed out while we were watching this, his wrist would be completely broken from this. And literally, he is in a... Okay, first off, Togusa shouldn't have been here. Let's all be honest. This was a full military operation. He's a cop. Send him home. There were 3 other full cyborgs in Section 9 they didn't bring Togusa. I want to point that out. But
he's their special little guy.
From a full rifle round, unless, like, there's no way it doesn't jerk up and kill you. Even the guns that they use in this are knockoff XM8s, which never entered in production. But it's there's no way the recoil wouldn't absolutely fuck him. If they had one of the cyborgs do that, that's cool as shit. But it's Togusa.
I would believe
his wrist's fucked.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, however, Saito getting that long range shot off with the iron sights on the rocket launcher guy.
Sick.
I love
Sick.
Saito so much.
Sick.
Pure
It's
shit.
so good. I do think it's interesting. There are things that they get really right. Like Alice, I'm sure you were enjoying. There are a couple of scenes where like Bato clears a room by like slicing the pie that are so clean and they're so well animated. You can see exactly what he's doing as he clears a room. And then there are things that it's like, well, this is just kind of cool or whatever. And like my understanding of Togusa in that moment was that he was trying to present the smallest target possible. But it's just not believable, with him being in a completely organic body, like, or organic save some cyberization stuff.
It should have been Boma.
Yeah,
Boma should have been here. We need our player 2 Galoot on the scene.
Yeah. But yeah, they do this whole extraction. They extract the old woman and they find out that she is the original kidnappee. The child who claims to be controlling the terrorism organization now is her daughter. And yeah, they have a fucked family relationship and I don't know. This was wild. That brings us to the end of this run of episodes. And like, what are our closing thoughts on this kind of run? Alice, what do you
One thing that I didn't pull up, but I want to kind of say is why this... So SAC Gig 1 is my favorite of the SAC, and specifically this run really just... It's so good. But there's a scene in the episode where the Major goes and sees her girlfriend who works at the hospital, and there's a little girl, and we get a glimpse into the Major's backstory that she went through full cyberization at the age of like 6. And this has really affected her. And I know you've all seen like the quote unquote feel good photos of like a young child who doesn't have a leg for whatever reason and the different sizes of prostheses as they grow up and how a child has to learn to do something with a part of their body that they don't have full control over. And cyberization in this is really talked about as like something that you do have to learn as a second skin, right? The phantom limb syndrome has to become part of your life. And you see with the new technology that they have for it and how it interacts with brainwaves. But at the end of this scene, Bato, being Bato, goes into the hangar where Togusa is playing Go with one of the Tachikomas, which the Tachikoma ends it by saying checkmate, which love a Tachikoma. But he brings in his workout equipment, is working out, and the Major comes in and they have their little end of episode debrief that they have in the standalone ones. And Bato asks the Major the question of like, when are you gonna get rid of that female chassis and get a male chassis because it's stronger? And she backhacks Bato and gets him to punch himself in the face. And the line she says is, so long as you can turn an overamped opponent's arm strength against him, the female form will do just fine. And I think that as an ethos of like gender identity, of being like the form that fits you, if in a perfect world, we could all just be whatever form we wanted at any given moment. God, please give me the world where I can get full cyberization. But this scene is so gender to me and so beautiful, and is also like part of why I love the Major of a character is like, you think about her ethos for why she uses this form, because she's a little girl whose childhood was taken from her, and now she has to be this super hyper competent woman above all else, that everyone around her is male. And there's this pressure, especially in like policing and jingoistic like military shit. Like, well, you got to be a dude, bro, who does soldier stuff, or a sexy female assassin. And she's like, I could do both with this same body, because cyberization means we have an equal playing field. And I just really like this. As we're going to go more into SAC, we get deeper into like what I see as a very good dive into gender that wasn't meant to be a dive into gender. And I just like this scene. So that's probably my last thought on this first run.
Okay, Brian?
Yeah, I was talking earlier about how like I kind of have a hard time with cyberpunk sometimes, just because like it's hard for me to imagine the possibility space. But I don't know, the imagination of this show is really incredible. I think this first 13 episodes set us up for like a really good time. I agree with Alice. I think the second gig doesn't quite have the juice as the first one. But there's still a lot of really, really, really good standalone episodes in that arc.
But when you're coming after this, it's hard to capture.
Yeah. And I'm glad to reinforce that like I'm capable of appreciating genres that I feel like my imagination is very limited in, and I think it's very cool to see all of the different things they're doing with like the concerns that cyberpunk has about like what it means to subject the human body to the future and things like that. So
I mean, it's this anime, like you said with the poem on your wall, this anime has been with me for so much of my life that it's been so influential on the way I think and like the way I kind of have perceived riding the wave of now. It's watching it again for this show has been really, really fun just because, like I said, I notice new things every time I watch it. I think that it is such a good slice of not just cyberpunk fiction and kind of working in the possibility space and cyberization, gender identity, stuff like that. But also, it's out of all of the Ghost in the Shell stuff to this point, it is the one that is the best at being shaped like kind of a police procedural. It's the one that's best at setting up a story and then paying off on that story like a continuous thing. I feel like that's why SAC really stands above a lot of other Ghost in the Shell media, even the 95 one, because it is the most cohesive of a narrative statement, I guess. I love the 95 one as well. It's very important. But Oshi is just doing a different thing with it, and this is really doing like, okay, so when you hear they're fighting crime in a future time, this is paying off on that so well. I learned a lot of storycraft type stuff from this series, a lot of nuts and bolts shop talk stuff. No, I'm so excited to get into more of it, and I'm so excited to come along on this journey with y'all. It means a lot that you let me be on this show.
Absolutely. Thank you for supporting early and often. I appreciate it. And also, it was just serendipitous to be like, yeah, we really want to talk about this thing. And it's like, let's get the number one sack sicko
Get the sickos in here.
We have her on tap. Bring her in. Deploy.
It was so great too, because literally yesterday it just dropped that we're getting a new Ghost in the Shell anime done by Science Saru that is written by the Godzilla Singular Point guy and is going to hew closer towards the manga, whatever that means. Which, like,
had no idea.
With the idea that we're getting more of the manga, that's kind of doing that. We are in the Ghost of the Shell.
It's also got Dan to Dan key animation staff. Like, I'm really excited.
Oh my god!
I have no idea what this is gonna be, but it's gonna be a hell of a thing.
Every decade needs a new epochal take on Ghost in the Shell, and every decade also needs one that is maybe not as good. And like 2000s was Sack and Innocence, 2010s was Arise in 2045. This one, it's going to be this new The Ghost in the Shell, and then we're still counting the ScarJo one. No, we're still counting.
Yeah, I think my last thought will be, like, we have been discussing, I was thinking a lot last night about the Tachikomas, specifically because we just covered Titanfall.
Did you Google that model kit?
And Titanfall, I need to. I knew I could find it is the thing, because I've been Googling for like Fuchikomas before.
The Tachikoma will always be in print now.
But like, I was thinking a lot about like BT having his own control of his body when you're not piloting. So like, you can get in a gunfight with BT at your side, like as another soldier, obviously a different class of soldier, but like, if you just want to shoot dudes, you don't have to embark. You and BT can just wreck shop, and BT has autonomous ability. And the Fuchikoma, or not the Fuchikomas, Jesus, the Tachikomas are in that same school, where so much of what they do is unpiloted. Like, they do so much support work just on their own. Like, they have computer systems that can do that stuff. And then they can also be piloted. And I think that that is a type of mech which is so interesting to me, specifically when we're talking about to what extent, if a body can be a mech because you can swap minds between it and consider that a pilot, a mech is also a huge body. And it has specific functions and it does specific things. But this is specifically asking a question in some ways of, what if you could have a huge body that was like the highest embodiment of yourself, but also you could get out of it and it was a separate entity itself? We're not going to be rating the mechs this time. I'm glad we've already got some of your thoughts on it, Iris. We're going to rate it at the end of this core. And so we're going to go ahead and move on. We're going to take a break. And then after that, I have a fun game.
Hey guys, Alice here. Thanks for listening to On the Shoulders of Giants. We're really happy you're here, but if you know anybody who might be interested, we'd love if you share our work with them. If you are enjoying what we're doing, maybe send us a message, or what would really help us out is if you leave a review online. Really, a lot of the algorithms will push people down if they don't have reviews, so it really helps if you just go and write something on the internet. Heck, we might even read one on the podcast if it's really nice and makes our hearts go doki doki. So if you could do that, maybe do it, and thanks again for listening. Now, back to the show.
All right, welcome back. We have a game.
No.
I have titled this game, These Bots Were Made for Walking. Arguably, one of the most iconic features of mechs in the Ghost in the Shell franchise are their wonderful legs. Throughout Standalone Complex, we get to see Tachikomas and other machines do all sorts of fun ambulation, from rolling around in a way that looks like roller skating, to skittering and jumping, to stomping. Right now, the state of robot locomotion is varied, if not delightful. In today's game, I'll ask you a number of questions about that. Each will have 3 possible answers. You'll all pick one at the same time, and you'll be awarded points for the ones you get correct. So there's no stealing. We're just going to do it like puppet history style. We're just going to, everyone give your answer, and then I'll award points. Are y'all ready to dive in?
Yeah. Am I like writing my answers on like the notes app or something?
You don't have to, because I'll make a note, but you can if you want to.
Oh, okay.
So, anyway, question 1. To avoid becoming entangled with underwater trash or foliage, the Sea Ray robot by Pliant Energy uses just 2 of what kind of limb to move? A, long wiggly fins. B, long sharp crab-like legs. Or C, triangular wheels articulated like elbows.
Now,
So when you're ready, just let me know A, B, or C, and y'all can choose the same ones. You'll just get points if you're correct.
I'm gonna trust my instinct and say A, because if it's called the Sea Ray, it should look like a ray.
I have the exact same reasoning and the exact same answer.
I'm going to say C, because fuck
Okay,
seaweed,
Alice?
you smash that shit with a triangle.
Well, Iris and Brian, you both get a point. The Sea Ray has long, wiggly, it looks like a little bit like a little flat, like sea worm or something, but it's all black, so it's not like weird, gross looking, but it moves in a very fun way. I will post images later, but yeah, it's wonderful. It wiggles along the seafloor. Yeah, Pliant Energy, if it doesn't already sound like it, is like an oil drilling, so they're making this robot so it can check their undersea pipelines. All right.
Cool.
Question 2. Yeah, I know. I gotta put the depressing part in. We haven't had a real Brian oil spills game in a while.
It's better than putting people down there, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Which company is responsible for the robot dog with advanced walking and fall recovery design showcased in a viral stress testing video? Is it A, NASA's JPL, B, Boston Dynamics, or C, US Robotics?
B.
Yeah, you got
B.
a pocket car in the garden for B.
Okay. You are all correct. That was a little bit of a gimme, but Boston Dynamics are the ones behind the robot dogs, which have taken off everywhere. A note to our listeners, if you ever need this information, the legs are pinch points. Please keep your limbs away from them. And if you're trying to remove a battery, because this one works for the cops, look up online. There's some good, helpful graphics that'll help you remove the battery on a robot dog that works for the cops.
Sorry, we mean it would be a real shame if people did that.
Oh, yeah.
And
I would never, ever say you should do that.
All right. Next question. Another underwater exploration robot ditches limbs entirely to move in an echo of which other ocean dweller? Is it A, the eel, B, the dolphin, or C, the jellyfish?
I really want it to be a jellyfish, so I'm going to put...
What's eel? I vote eel.
I'm going to say...
It's eel.
I'm going to say B, dolphin, just because it makes me think of Jones from Johnny Mnemonic, and that's a great thing to think about.
Yeah! Alice actually does get the point. It is made like an eel. Its entire body, it has no like external propulsion. It just echoes the movements of an eel to move itself.
Eels
through the
can just
water.
like cut
I think
off
it's
part
pretty
of
cool.
themselves and that becomes another eel. I think that's pretty cool.
Okay.
Do eels do that? I thought that was worms.
I have great news about
Neither
eels.
do that, I don't think. No.
We're spreading correct information on this podcast as usual.
Did you know that moray eels are actually blue in their skin pattern? The reason they look green is because they coat themselves with a layer of yellow mucus.
Are you telling me that Animal Crossing New Horizons is incorrect in its coloring?
Well, no, it is correct because they
do
appear green. It's just yellow mucus on blue skin. My sister is a marine biologist. She told me this fascinating fact last time I visited her.
I love anytime you know anyone who has a specialized degree has like a horrible fact they want you to know. All right. Next question. For just 10 beautiful doll hairs, you could own a small robot that moves on wheels, boo, but it navigates its environment using what unconventional method? Is it A, echolocation via small beeps it emits every 3 seconds, B, following a line drawn on the ground by its user, or C, using light sensors to direct it towards more visible areas?
I'm gonna say A, beeping. Also, why do you hate wheels? Why are you a wheels hater?
Because I'm talking about legs. This is the legs game.
I'm gonna say
okay, got it.
C, because that sounds like a guidance system that I've heard of before.
Yeah, I think C, the LiDAR, light dar.
All right. None of you get a point. There's actually a lot of different robots you can get that if you draw on paper or on the ground, some need a specific pin. Others actually have like visual detectors. It will just follow the line that you draw. So you can make the crazy curly Q and it just follows it. It's a very simple little robot kit.
In robotics in middle school. I didn't know they were doing it at an industrial scale.
I'm from the poorest state in the union. I did not have that in school.
Did you not have a robotics club where you guys all built robots with Legos and then went to robotics competitions with Arduino machines?
We didn't even have a gym.
Oh, well.
Brian was outside with some sticks and some scorpions.
Literally.
Yes.
Iris, we're on the scale from robotics to sticks and scorpions. Were you?
I mean, Central Maryland, so yeah, we had a robotics club.
But they were just crabs
I wasn't a part of it, though.
With scissors taped to them?
I was a drama kid. I didn't know anything about that kind of jazz.
I also went to school around this time in West Texas, so I'm also Sticks and Scorpions gang. All right, next question. NASA's JPL, aka their Jet Propulsion Laboratory, isn't just in the engine business. Their Lemur 3 climbing robot can climb extremely steep surfaces for exploration. How does it keep its grip? Is it A, its hands are covered in thousands of sharp hooks? B, its fingertips generate extreme vacuum suction? Or C, it has very long fingers with 6 joints to work into crevices?
I think it's got to be C because that's the most lemur sounding.
I'm going C, fuck hands.
A is the worst thing to imagine on Earth.
Velcro hands.
I'm pretty sure
Terrible.
It's C because they did that shit with a rover, but it's A. I want it to be A.
No.
Alice gets a point.
Yes!
Velcro hands.
Hell world.
Like I said, I will send links later. It is fucked. It is covered in sharp hooks under
Grabbing
there.
that titty with the sharp hook hand.
Pulling that titty right off. All right. Next question. The wretched Boston Dynamics has continued refining walking technology with their latest Atlas bipedal robot. Which previously human-exclusive activity can it now do? Is it A, trampoline front flips? Is it B, parkour? Or is it C, breakdancing?
I thought it could do all of these, so this is throwing me off. I'm gonna go C, breakdancing, because I think I've seen a video of that shit breakdancing.
I'm going to go with A, trampoline front flips, because that seems like the most dangerous thing you could ask a very expensive piece of machinery to do.
That's fair. Trampolines are death traps. And I loved the one I had in West Texas, which was 40 years old and everything was rust.
Yeah.
Me too. Oh my God, I had a trampoline just like that. And my parents were like, this is unsafe. I'm going to sell this because literally you could die any moment.
My mom never let me jump on it. She just let me walk on it. She was like, at least if you're walking, I can maybe grab you.
That's one of those things when you're a kid, the idea that your parents tell you can't have one of those feels like the most unreasonable, irrational thing they could possibly say. And now as an adult, I'm like, no, they were right. That was correct of them.
Everyone I ever knew should have been in a class action lawsuit.
They should only exist in jump parks where every other surface is a soft cushion. That's the...
Yes.
Yep. All right, Brian, what is your answer on this one?
What was B?
B was parkour.
I'm going to go with B.
Okay. Alice is correct. That robot breakdances. It's not even like, okay, on a scale from Australian Olympics breakdancing to like actual people who should and can breakdance.
B-boys from Queens and stuff.
Honestly and upsettingly a little bit closer to actual people who can breakdance than the Australians. I'll send a video later. It's like actually okay. Anyway. Number 7, what is the name of one of the earliest bipedal walking robots known for its distinctive I just shit my pants walk? Is it A, SA-01? Is it B, Asimo? Or is it C, Leonardo?
Asimo.
Yeah, it's B. It's Asimo. Named for Isaac Asimov.
I'm going to go with Asimo because the other two sound so sure. I've never heard of this.
It is Asimo. I will send a video.
He looks like he's actively shit his pants every time he moves.
The way that they balance his chassis being too heavy is they have his legs like more forward. And so it looks like he's just shit his pants.
It's like in
hold on,
and they've done so many iterations, and like that is still like.
But unlike Nuisance Life of a robot dependent girl, it does not look like it's wearing a diaper. So
no, it doesn't. It's just shitting on the.
Iris, you won't get that reference until that episode drops.
All right, next question. We are headed back into the ocean to visit an octopus robot made by Harvard University researchers. What makes this little guy such an innovation? Is it A, it has pressure-sensitive rings along all 8 arms? Is it B, it uses chemical reactions to create bioluminescence for signaling? Or is it C, it's entirely soft?
C, because that's what I want it to be.
I'm going to say A, because that seems... This is like my stupid but good at taking tests heritage. That seems like the one that is the most relevant to what we're talking about in this test. So I'm going to say A.
Okay.
Brian, what are you feeling?
I was going to say A just because it kind of sounded like good.
Okay. Alice gets the point. It's an entirely soft robot. So it's made out of a specific type of soft polymer, and it uses a partially organic processing system.
That's wild.
It's really wild. It's one of those things they're looking at robots that can survive pressure depths. And when you introduce hydraulics, like that's a whole different issue.
Oh, yeah.
So if they can make it out of like pliable material that can tolerate the pressures, they can get deeper into the ocean.
You can also hug it easier.
So, yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, you can also hold it in your little hands and it's all floppy.
Wow.
All right, we're almost done here. Question 9. Which animal, known for walking extreme distances, inspired one professor working on robot locomotion in specialized environments? Is it A, the lobster, B, the camel, or C, the caribou?
The lobster, because they can survive high pressures, is my bet.
I think it's going to be the camel because camels have a very unusual way of walking that I think they only share with cats. Their legs move, the front and back moves in a different way than most quadrupedal animals.
Okay.
Did your marine biologist sister tell you that about camels?
No, this
Camels-
is
About camels?
This is
Classically
my-
marine animal.
This is my boundless curiosity for the world around me that taught me that.
That's beautiful. I was going to say lobster for the same reason as Alice, actually.
Okay. Brian and Alice, you get a point. It's a lobster robot.
But I get to look at videos of a camel
It
walking
walks around.
later, so that's pretty fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you
that's
go.
really cool. It makes sense. It walks on sand a lot. It would need to be really dexterous. Like, that makes sense. All right, question 10. Let's make one more visit to Boston Dynamics to see Handle. It's multi-legged robot that uses both limbs and wheels like a Tachikoma and complex fluid flips and turns. When did Handle debut? Is it A, this year, B, 2020, or C, 2017?
I feel like I saw this ages ago, so I want to say 2017 C.
I think
Okay.
2020, that sounds like something that could only be made with the dementia of lockdown influencing it.
I feel like if it was 2020, I wouldn't have missed it, and I feel like I totally missed this. So I'm going to say 2017.
All right. Alice and Brian, you once again get the point. I couldn't believe it watching it in motion, but this was 2017.
Wow.
It is wild again. I will send video. the way it moves, it doesn't quite have the roller skating action that Tachikoma do. What it has 2 back legs that have a soft contact point, and then it has 2 large wheels on front legs. And so it executes these turns and flips using the soft
It looks like it's
points,
roller skating.
and its balance
it's so
is crazy.
Cool.
It's really cool, actually. Like, I don't want those to be cops, but I kind of wish we had more
I want
robots
a roller
like that,
derby
you know?
team built out of them.
I know!
But also they
Think
all
about
have to be
Demolition Derby
lesbians.
plus Robot Club. Yeah, they do all have to be lesbian robots. And then it's this.
This is why I got frustrated that they canceled BattleBots, because there's so many more robot sports that could exist.
And classically, all of the BattleBots are women.
That's true. That's true.
Especially the ones that are just like rectangles that slide under each other. Those are bottoms.
Look, people hyper-optimizing BattleBots is what ruined BattleBots. We'll talk about it another day.
Oh, we're going to talk about the vertical
right.
spinner meta? Because I have some words about that.
More flamethrowers. Why are we doing flamethrowers?
Alice, Jesus Christ, I need you. We have one final question. It's a specific type of question. Alice, what is it?
Is it a bonus question?
It is a bonus question for double points. Which artist created a feminine dancing robot, which was then erroneously publicized as being a prototype for real robot strippers? Was it A, Hans Belmer, B, Jordan Wolfson, or C, Giles Walker?
That's some Giles activity.
See Giles Walker, because we're talking about legs.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
thematic.
going to say A, Hans Belmer, because I remember that name from the Innocence episode.
All right. Well, unfortunately, nobody gets a point, but I have an interesting story here. So yes, you did correctly remember Hans Belmer from the Innocence episode. Unfortunately, he's from like 1910, so he's not really in the robot stripper space, unfortunately.
Boom.
Fucking Victorian.
And y'all, Giles Walker did make stripper robots, but he actually made stripper robots. Originally, they were...
1 second.
Originally, they were for an art piece. All of their heads are CCTV cameras.
Oh,
Giles Walker
wow.
is a British artist. And so initially, it was an art installation that was, like the seduction of the surveillance state, right? But now he's getting sponsorships from Las Vegas to just have these robot strippers dance on the pole.
Ah, shit.
Jordan
wow.
Wolfson.
Wow. Look at that. Anyways.
Yeah. Jordan Wolfson is responsible for an art piece called The Female Figure, which was a robotic woman attached to a mirror on a wall that did freaky dancing.
Yep.
You've seen the video
Now I
of
remember.
this. She's in a slip and she does this freaky dancing motion. And that went viral, I think, in like 2017, kind of about the same time. And a lot of people were saying that this was a prototype for stripper robots and isn't the future fucked. Like, that's so creepy. It wasn't. It was an art piece. It was put on in New York. But it got a lot of attention that now, I mean, if you Google now, like, robot stripper, you get Giles Walker more. But a lot of people, like, the Daily Mail had a whole article about, oh, yeah, this is going to be the fucking robot strippers of the future are going to look really scary and be attached to walls or whatever the fuck. And it was an art piece. But I wanted to include it because then I get to include the video, which is fucking terrifying. Anyway, I'm going to do some quick math and total up our winner.
They could have made Gundams. That's it. We could have made Gundams,
They
and
coulda made
instead we
Gundams.
objectified women another time.
Hey, don't worry. Gundam objectifies plenty of women.
FYI, I have BT holding a pencil for me now because I don't have any weapons for BT. So I have a
We have
pencil.
to
So
erase
I'm going to
this.
do some quick math.
BT's doing storyboards.
He's doing storyboards. Okay. I'm going to real quick do this.
She's doing mathematics. She's doing mathematics.
I'm mathematics. I'm incredible math.
Put the incredible math during the calculation. Thanks, editing note.
I mean, we could just cut it, but yeah, if you want to show me.
Did you forget you turned the volume all the way up, Iris?
Yes, it freaked me
3.5 hours ago when we started this episode.
That was a brick joke that just paid off.
It's like poetry.
Oh my
it rhymes.
God. Okay, and then... Okay, these results are funny. I'm going to say
69?
that for you right now.
9/11?
It's 69. Everyone actually got 69, which is wild.
Wow, the weed number.
420. 420. That's the
All
other
right.
funny number, right? Did I get them
So-
all?
Nice.
Nice.
Podcast.
All right. In third place, but in a place of honor, is Iris. Unfortunately, you had a lot cooler ideas for how robots should be, but they weren't accurate.
That's fine.
Like the camel thing is going to follow me for a while because I'm like, that's actually really cool.
Once again, betrayed by the constraints of reality.
We could have
That's
camel
really true.
robots crossing Arabia right now. God damn it.
God damn it. In second place, Bri. Strong effort, 5 points, but not quite the robot fucker that I am crowning Alice at. No, you're the robot walker. It's like a dog walker, but you attach a leash to the firing pin and you just have it follow you around.
Yeah.
Truly a peace walker.
Call me Paz Ortega because I'm a peace walker.
We're getting an encrypted flash transmission.
Dear OSG, I recently got hired as an outreach support specialist for a local nonprofit helping maladjusted youths learn how to post online safely. These serial posters are a lot to handle, but I enjoy this job immensely so far. However, I have a problem. One of my wards is actually a super hacker who is hiding from the cops. I don't want to snitch on them just yet, but I'd like to try and figure it out before a statue attacks me. The wards I have are a talkative sporty type, a weird artsy girl, a big kid who is silent but gentle, and a kid who really wants to get online to post, and a deaf mute in a wheelchair. I've included pictures for your reference. Who do you think is the super hacker? Thanks, overworked dad.
Thank you for writing in, overworked dad. Let's take a picture of these, or let's take a picture. Let's get a look at these sad children.
Yeah.
I don't actually have a photo.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm pretending to look at them in my mind. Oh, rough, difficult. All right. This wasn't the direction I thought you were going in. I thought you were going in like, how do I make them the ultimate posters? But I guess they came with the poster spirit. Like, that's
Look,
why they're
we've got
here,
our
I guess.
Redditor, we've got our Tumblr girly, we've got our something awful user, and I'm pretty sure that other kid is a 4chan poster. So we've got the 4 major posting archetypes with us right now.
I think if modern technology and modern culture has taught us anything, hackers are girls. Now, are they girls yet, or will they become girls? Hard to say. But I'm just going to go ahead with the safe bet and say artsy girl is also Lee.
Yeah. The something awful guy. Now, which part of something awful does he frequent? Because that's a crucial conjunction there. We talking
Trad
like,
games.
Is he up in GBS or
Trad
what?
games.
Oh, God.
Wait,
Well, I guess it's very...
Trad games and BYOB.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know what
No,
any of this means. I'm just you're having face journeys.
I'm speaking specifically to our SA user fan base, which is 4
No,
people.
that's your perp. You gotta arrest him for something. He shouldn't.
Just frame him for the hacker
Just
stuff.
Oddly
get him
enough,
out
the
of
4chan kitty
circulation.
only posting on poll, though. Oh,
Yeah, a danger of a different kind.
all right, let's add layers to each of them. Tumblr girly, she's in the Destiel tags exclusively.
Okay, so I no longer think she's a hacker, but she is a danger. Like, she's making gift sets that when you first see them, you're like, that's really beautiful. Like, what poem is that from? Is that Richard Sykin? And then you look at it again and you realize it's fucking Misha Collins. And you're like, God help me. So that's the danger she presents.
Anyway, my advice is no snitching. You're trying to get answers and we're not giving any of them. Stop writing, police. Stop it.
Yeah. Maybe you are the super hacker and you've just hacked your own brain to forget it.
Togasa, you could work any job.
Yeah, did you
and you
think about
chose
that?
being a cop.
You could have been in manufacturing. You could have been in the OG-san trading card game by volunteering at your local community center.
Your pregnant wife, who is always pregnant at every point in the series, doesn't have to put up with this, okay?
Oh my God, can you imagine if Togasa was like a quiverful guy? Anyway, no, just like, no. Yeah. Thank you for writing in. We hope that this has helped eliminate or add some suspects. I definitely think you should try posting, and whoever feels like they have to intervene to stop your posting is probably the guy, but, you know, that's another avenue.
Can you imagine Togasa's posting? He's like chicken pecking that shit.
He's chicken pecking. I also feel like he's on Reddit.
No, Twitter user. Certified.
No.
I was going to say Reddit, like, are not very interesting or whatever it is.
Yeah, I'll do you one better. He's one of the 7 people who still use Peach.
What the fuck is Peach?
That's
I'm afraid.
a deep cut, Iris.
It's a deep
No,
cut.
he's on AOL. He's on Yahoo News. He doesn't know what posting is.
Oh my god, he's still in Yahoo groups. He's
Google
waiting
Spaces.
on scanlations. I just think that Saito is on Tegaki A because he's probably got a really steady hand. That's a throwback for people who were on that platform.
Man, why don't they make that shit anymore? That was great.
We were a society
I really
of
like
posters.
Tegaki A. We
It was
used to
so
make things
good.
in this country. And by this country, I mean Japan.
Major's on 2chan.
And that's been this episode of On the Shoulders of Giants, where we discussed Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex Season 1, Part 1. Any parting thoughts?
Whammon.
Oh, women.
Tachikoma voice. Wow.
Wowman.
Wowman.
Me when I see a woman, Tachikoma voice, wow.
I do need the wow based. I have to figure out how to make that. All right. Thanks for listening. Pilots, remember, you can reach out for advice from the team at our email, questions@osgpod.com, and non-pilots can send general questions or feedback to the same address. You can catch up with us on social media. The links are in the description for updates and more. You'll also find a link to the show Discord there. Come hang out. It's been really fun. Iris, where can people find more Iris if they want more Iris J?
Oh my God, if you want more Iris J, there's plenty of places to find me. IrisJ.net is my portfolio site. You can read Crossed Wires, my aforementioned hacker webcomic, at crossedwires.irisj.net. I have a store, shop.irisj.net, where you can buy my stuff. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/irisj. I also do a comic with my partner Nero Villagayos O'Reilly over on slipshine.net called Wedlocked. That one is not cyberpunk and is also of a erotic nature, though. So kids, do not look. Adults, please subscribe. I also would love to rep my own podcast that I do with my homies, June, Belina, and Grace. It's called Disc Coverers, and we are going through reading, reviewing, and ranking all 41 of Terry Pratchett's seminal fantasy comic novel series, The Discworld. We just got done with Going Postal, and by the time this episode goes up, the episode should be live online. So if that was your fave, you can listen to that episode and listen to what we thought of it. It's great.
You got your Gibson, you got your Pratchett, you've pretty much got, like, you know, your writers who have changed the face of society covered if you're looking for any Iris J project.
So are the elephants on top of the turtle, or is the turtle on top of the elephant?
We literally can't get into this. They're just going to have to listen to the podcast.
Yeah. We go into it. Don't worry. We cover it.
We don't need to know how they move either. I don't know what kind of legs they got. All right. Everyone, make sure to check back in 2 weeks when we'll be discussing For Our Sins, God Help Us, Real Steel. Until then.
Oh, wow. Oh, Jesus. I didn't know that was coming next.
Hater episode. Yeah, I know. We're going from a high to a low. It's
You're
like
brave.
when you see the Major always wearing the bustier and then she puts on pants. Like,
Unironically, I'm so excited.
All right. Until then, goodbye. I love you.
Goodbye. I love you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. I love you.